Welcome, and good morning to those of you who are joining us from the UK, and good afternoon to those of you who are joining us from Nepal and from India. Welcome to today's proceedings in this key event in the run-up to COP26 for the Government of Nepal. We have a very full programme today, and I'll go through just some of the mechanics and what to expect in a moment. But first, I'd like to thank the Board of Investment of Nepal and DIT in particular for having made this event possible, as well as all of our event sponsors who I'll come to later on in the proceedings. First, the idea behind today's event was to create a multi-stakeholder event that was going to focus on trying to encourage renewable energy investment into Nepal. And with that, we have a number of government agencies setting out their case from Nepal. We have regulators, we have from the international finance community, we have both bi- and multilateral agencies, and from the private sector we have both developers and we have some of the big international financial houses that can help making that investment a reality. I'll give you a sense as to what's going to happen today. We're going to hear from some of those key actors in the first instance, after which we're going to switch to Zoom and have an interactive session whereby individual companies can introduce themselves to one another, and you'll find that information on your delegate information that you received yesterday, but if you would like to reference it, it's on the right-hand side of your screen. And with that, I'd like to begin today's proceedings and invite our first speaker, Sushil Bhatta, the Chief Executive of the Board of Investment. Now, the Board of Investment have been the key drivers behind this in Nepal, and they've been the key conveners as well of the Government of Nepal. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Sushil and then begin today's proceedings. Thank you very much indeed.
Honorable Finance Minister of Nepal, Mr. Janardhan Sharma, Lord Sheikh, Chairman of the UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum, Her Excellency Nicola Pollitt, British Ambassador to Nepal, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to deliver this remark on the UK-Nepal energy transition and countdown to COP26. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for jointly coming together for this important event with a focus on energy transition, Nepal's energy mix, financing the energy transition, energy trade and investing to achieve net zero emission, and investment opportunities in green infrastructure in Nepal. I am delighted to see the support for this event across both government and the private sectors, which highlights the importance of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, the Investment Board Nepal, established in 2011, is a high-level government agency under the chairmanship of Right Honourable Prime Minister to develop, implement and facilitate large infrastructure projects in public-private partnership and private investments by mobilizing domestic and foreign investments in Nepal. During the 10 years period of its establishment, the board has played a significant role in the development of large and transformative infrastructure projects that will make a significant contribution to socio-economic transformation of Nepal. The board has approved an investment of about $7 billion for almost 27 projects till date. Out of those projects, 15 projects are in energy sector and 12 are in the other sectors. OIBN has contributed to wider clean energy in Nepal through hydropower projects and has been exploring opportunities in solar projects, electric transport and smart urban cities. The flagship projects, Arun 3 hydroelectric project of 900 megawatt installed capacity, is in advanced stage of construction, with almost 40% progress being made so far. Similarly, the 900 megawatt Upper Karnali hydroelectric project is at the financial closure stage. Some of our cement projects, such as Hongsi and Huasin, have adopted waste heat recovery system for power generations. IBN, as the fast-track agency and facilitator of private investment and public-private partnership in Nepal, has been able to increase investors' confidence in bringing in more investment in Nepal for the development of green energy projects in various sectors. Signing of an MOU with SAVN Limited to develop Lower Arun with an indicative capacity of 679 megawatt, and Ryzen Energy Singapore for 250 megawatt solar project, and Power Construction Corporation of China for Tamor Storage hydroelectric project of 756 megawatt have been completed in last year. These are some examples which demonstrate that the investors are finding their comfort zone to invest in Nepal. This is also an indication of the increasing credibility of the market and as well as IBN. Our project portfolio and achievements so far clearly demonstrates that we have geared towards the significantly contributing to target of achieving the net zero emission. We have started developing project bank framework along with project bank management information system and web-based one-stop service, which will help us to provide decent services to our valued developers or investors respectively. I personally feel organizing this program when the world, including our government, the private sectors and other stakeholders are concentrating our efforts on reviving the economy and livelihood of the people who are severely affected by the ongoing pandemic, is very apt and timely. Strong collaboration between our two nations is required to reviving the economies with a focus on green infrastructure to limit the greenhouse emission and collectively enhance the socio-economic condition of the concerned beneficiaries. Ladies and gentlemen, the production of green hydrogen through electrolysis could be one of the promising areas of investments in Nepal because of probable abundance of hydroelectricity in the coming days. In the context of global climate change, when we are gearing towards net zero emission and transitioning to a carbon neutral economy, developing low carbon and climate resilient infrastructure would be a win-win situation for both of our countries. The ongoing discussions on the energy transition between Nepal and UK's private sector, financing in energy transition, energy trade and investing to achieve net zero emission and investment opportunities in green infrastructure in Nepal is very timely and crucial. Nepal and UK, with strong history of ties, have been partnering on many fronts and levels. Businesses and investments are on increasing trend and are taking on new shapes and dimensions. The presence of British investors and companies in Nepalese economy has been increasing across many sectors, including education, manufacturing, information technology, and energy. Distinguished participants, Nepal is on the path of generating economic prosperity by creating a robust legal and policy framework aimed at providing a conducive business environment for the private sector as one of the main pillars of economic development. It gives me immense pleasure to inform you that in recent years, the government of Nepal has undertaken various reforms as part of its sustained effort to garner private sector investments. Our reform drive has gone well beyond various regulatory frameworks. Strengthening institutions, building capacity, streamlining and simplifying processes and procedures have also been the hallmark of Nepal's reform initiatives. These efforts and reform reiterate the commitment of the government of Nepal to create an investment-friendly environment and overcome the challenges faced by foreign investors. IBN, as the first reference point for investment in Nepal, is committed to availing excellent and quality services to investors for timely execution of projects. We have a vision of developing Nepal as an attractive investment destination. And to achieve this vision, we are committed to accelerating investment in transformative green infrastructure projects across a variety of sectors by promoting and managing public-private partnership and facilitating private investments. I would like to extend my best wishes for the success of this event and hope that this will give impetus in our effort to strengthen bilateral trade and investment relations to build the green, resilient and inclusive infrastructure. Finally, on behalf of IBN, I would like to thank all the distinguished participants of this event and look forward to continued collaboration and cooperation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sushil. A predictably excellent start to the proceedings and a great setting the scene from you there. And now we're going to go on to our next speaker. Before we do that, perhaps just one more housekeeping item, and that is we are recording today's proceedings. They'll be available both on DMA's website, developingmarkets.com, on our YouTube channel, which is DMA Invest, and on the Board of Investment's own website as well. So if you miss any or part of the proceedings, you're able to catch up with this at your own leisure. We're very grateful now to have our next speaker, the British Ambassador to Nepal. Ambassador Pollitt has been a long-term diplomat with the FCDO and has had a very distinguished career, including spells at Number 10. And with that, thank you very much, Ambassador Pollitt, for having agreed to record this. And we're very grateful to hear from you now. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be with you. I'm sorry not to be able to be there in person. And thank you for the opportunity to speak today alongside Lord Sheikh, Chairman of the UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum, Mr. Sushil Bhatta, CEO of the Office of the Investment Board Nepal, and His Excellency Mr. Lok Darshan Regmi. I'm also pleased to see such enthusiastic participation from the UK's private sector and Nepali stakeholders at this timely, albeit hybrid, trade mission to Nepal. The UK's presidency of COP26, the most important climate change conference of our times, comes at a very challenging moment. We're all still managing the many challenges that the coronavirus pandemic has brought. But numerous climate change related natural hazards around the world have shown us that we simply must avoid taking climate change lightly. Although Nepal's carbon footprint is less than 0.1% of global emissions, it ranks fourth in terms of vulnerability. The effects of a warming planet are clearly visible in melting glaciers and the harmful change in weather patterns affecting agriculture, hydropower and tourism. In addition, Nepal has also had to face devastating floods and landslides this year, which have led to a tragic loss of life, as well as impacts on livelihoods. Nepal has huge potential to show leadership in tackling climate change, and we very much welcome the government's work on further decreasing its already small climate footprint. The government of Nepal has prioritised commitments to promote renewable energy, electric cooking, electric mobility and manage forestry. This means that Nepal's development in the coming years will be driven by clean growth, clean energy, clean transport and better management of its resources. Importantly, Nepal can also export clean power to the region, a potentially significant source of revenue of up to $9 billion per year, and reduce emissions by up to 40 million tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. That's why over the last 12 months, the UK and the World Bank have been leading work with the government of Nepal and Nepal's development partners to support a green recovery in Nepal. Last week, our COP26 regional climate ambassador visited Nepal. He signed with the Ministry of Finance and other development partners the Kathmandu Declaration, which commits $4.2 billion of new investment from 14 development partners to support Nepal's green, resilient and inclusive development. This will support the transition to renewable energy and investments in climate-friendly green growth sectors like clean transport and smart electric networks in Nepal. Speakers at the event emphasised the need to work with the private sector to mobilise green investment and featured commercial investors, clean energy developers and Nepal's State Bank. The Minister of Finance emphasised that Nepal was open for climate business. To continue the momentum in this area, at COP26, a green investment event is planned to showcase Nepal's opportunities and build on the discussions and interest generated from participants today. We see many opportunities in Nepal, particularly in supporting green investment in resilient infrastructure and the renewable energy sectors. The UK supports the Investment Board Nepal, which plays an integral role in promoting large-scale infrastructure and energy projects, including the Arun 3 and Upper Kanali hydropower projects, which are 900 megawatt projects each. We are also supporting it to set up a pipeline of green projects. Our own Nepal Renewable Energy Programme supports the transformation of renewable energy market in Nepal, including by installing 16 megawatts of distributed renewable energy systems within 2 years. The Embassy's climate team supported the formulation of Nepal's second nationally determined contribution for COP26. It states that the country will expand clean energy generation from approximately 1,400 megawatts currently to 15,000 megawatts by 2030. Nepal has also committed to 25% of all passenger vehicles being electric by 2025 and aims to develop an electric rail network by 2030 to support public commuters and mass transportation of goods. Furthermore, the government of Nepal is also investing in other infrastructure required for Nepal's development, from airports to urban infrastructure. There are also plans to add to and upgrade the electricity transmission and distribution networks to smart meters and smart grids. To achieve all these ambitions, the government of Nepal will require financial, technological and capacity building support from development partners, from climate funds and technology partners. This is great news for the UK's private sector. One thing is clear from our recent engagement with Nepal's private sector stakeholders. They are all keen to explore international financial and technical partners to bring in innovation as well as international best practice. The presence today of all Nepal's major stakeholders, including all relevant government agencies, the private sector partners and development finance institutions, is complemented by enthusiastic participation from the UK's private sector. You will hear in the forthcoming sessions about Nepal's immense potential in renewable energy and clean growth. I'm sure you will identify numerous opportunities during this event and the follow-up green investment activities that we'll be undertaking over the coming months. My colleague from the Department for International Trade at the Embassy will be more than happy to extend additional support as you seek prospects in Nepal. I'm very grateful to the Nepali Embassy for hosting this event from their premises in London today. I hope that with improving COVID-19 situation in the UK and in Nepal, we'll be able to welcome you in person soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Pollitt. And that was a really great presentation as well, in order to kick off these proceedings. And I've got to say, Ambassador Pollitt, it's been a real pleasure working with your team, particularly with Suresh Thapa, who's been leading this from the British Embassy in Kathmandu. Thank you. And thank you for having given that presentation to start with. Now, we have been working over the past 6 months with Roshan Kanal, who is the Chargé d'Affaires for the Nepalese Embassy in London. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you, Ambassador Kanal, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you as well. Thank you for all your support, and thank you for hosting today's proceedings as well at the Embassy of Nepal. Over to you, Ambassador Kanal.
Honorable Janardhan Sharma, Minister for Finance of Nepal, The Right Honourable the Lord Sheikh, Her Excellency the Ambassador of UK to Nepal, CEO of Investment Board of Nepal, senior government officials, members of the UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum, all the distinguished speakers and participants. Good morning and namaste. It is my great honor and privilege to speak in this important event. Global warming has caused changes to the climate, leading to the climate crisis. We now face the greatest challenge in human history, that is the impending climate catastrophe. This is not a challenge just for one part of the globe, nor is it just for one generation. It threatens the very existence of the planet and life on it. Research states that a collaborative and coordinated action is inevitable. We are already experiencing the adverse impact of climate change. We are seeing more forest fires, droughts, floods, outbursts of glaciers, and so forth. There is a greater push from the global leaders to achieve the targets set in the Paris Climate Agreement. In particular, the target to limit increase in average temperature to less than 2 or 1.5 above pre-industrial levels is at the forefront of this push. Carbon and our reliance on fossil fuels are the biggest contributors to the increase in temperatures. And thus, we must shift to cleaner energy resources in every part of the economy, from agriculture to technology. We must facilitate the energy transition in every part of the globe and decarbonize to more sustainable energy consumption. Governments, private sectors, and even households must work cohesively towards the shift to cleaner energy, as there is no alternative. The Government of Nepal would like to extend its appreciation to the Government of the UK for its leadership in this campaign. As a member state of the UNFCCC and a strong advocate for addressing climate change, Nepal would like to work with the UK government and private sector by mobilizing funds, sharing expertise, and technology transfer to achieve these goals. The second nationally determined contribution reflects Nepal's commitments towards net zero by 2050. This conference, jointly organized by DMA, Nepal Embassy in London, and the Investment Board of Nepal ahead of the COP26, is a great stepping stone in the move to cleaner energy. I would like to thank the Right Honourable Lord Sheikh, CEO of Investment Board of Nepal and the team, the British Embassy in Kathmandu, and DMA Investments who played a key role in organizing this event. I am hopeful the government organizations and the various private organizations here today will continue this dialogue by starting new projects, mobilizing funds, and contributing to facilitating the shift to cleaner energy. Nepal and the United Kingdom treasure friendly, cordial, and cooperative relations from over 2 centuries. The United Kingdom is one of the largest development partners of Nepal. It has contributed to socio-economic development of Nepal. Socio-economic transformation is the first and foremost agenda of the present government of Nepal. Nepal aspires to become a middle-income country by 2030 and graduate from LDC at an early date. To achieve these goals, we require massive investment in infrastructure development and induction of advanced and innovative technologies. Nepal aspires to collaborate with the UK in utilizing available resources and opportunities for the benefit of both the countries. Investment in energy infrastructures, building sustainable and quality physical infrastructures, including road, airport, railways, building tourism infrastructures, and development of the ICT are major priority sectors of the present government for FDI. There is firm political commitment and consensus towards economic transformation and FDI among the major political parties of Nepal. In recent years, Nepal's ranking on the front of ease of doing business has improved significantly. The government is determined to create investment-friendly environment not by word but by deed, and not by process but by results. In order to attract foreign investment, the government has reformed the legal arrangements, bureaucratic procedures, increased the capacity of banking and financial sector, availability of human resources, and internal security, among others. The government is equally committed to maintain liberal economic policy with private sector as a key partner. The government assures all the private sectors that there will be policy stability and continuity. In line with this policy framework, the government has enacted progressive laws and policies on foreign investment, public-private partnership, industrial enterprises, labor, banking, and intellectual property. Almost every sector, including hydropower, manufacturing industries, IT, services, tourism, mining, herbal medicines, and agro-based industries, are open for foreign investment. Our negative list is very small. All these sectors have immense potentials for foreign investment. We have CEO of OIBN with us today. We will hear more from him in this regard. The United Kingdom is one of the largest sources of FDI in Nepal. Nepal has signed WIPA with 6 countries, including the UK. Nepal has signed GTAA with 10 countries, and we are in the process of concluding it with the UK government. Both the governments have agreed to conclude double taxation avoidance agreement as soon as possible. The embassy in London is committed and always open to discuss the prospects of investment in Nepal, coordinate and facilitate the potential investors from the UK. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Kanal, and thank you once again for hosting this at the embassy this morning. Now to one of our keynote speakers, the Lord Sheikh of Cornhill, who I'm very proud to call a friend, as well as a champion of trade and investment overseas, particularly in emerging and frontier markets. And he's a particular devotee and fan of Nepal, having visited on a number of occasions and also having led the newly formed and is leading the newly formed UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum. Lord Sheikh, thank you for having engineered this event, having driven it, and also for delivering this keynote. Over to you, Lord Sheikh. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. As I said in my maiden speech in the House of Lords several years ago, that the environment is a passion of mine. I was brought up in Uganda, and as a young boy, I would fish on the shores of Lake Victoria and swim in the clean waters of the River Nile. I saw green vegetation around me and wildlife in its natural habitat. I was lucky enough to enjoy nature in my youth, and these experiences led me to a lifelong love of the environment. Tragically, we are now faced with the degradation of this beautiful world. This cannot be allowed to happen. Now is the time to take proactive steps and ensure our planet's sustainable future. Tackling the climate crisis must be a national and international priority, especially as we recover from the pandemic and build back better and greener future. I'm a friend of Nepal, and I've visited the country on 3 separate occasions. Also, I have, with the help of others, established the UK-Nepal Trade and Investment Forum. I have a strong connection with the country and its people, who I know to be incredibly friendly and hospitable. With this in mind, I would like to applaud the work of Atam Sandhu and Developing Market Associates for arranging this high-class event for Nepal. The lineup is incredibly first class, and we have with us an outstanding collection ministers, agencies, regulators, and companies. I'm a businessman and I have been chairman of a successful public company. Therefore, I'm delighted to have with us many British companies participating in these discussions. Indeed, this is an official COP26 event, and the assembled company here with us would remind us of this fact. The upcoming conference in Glasgow is once-in-a-generation opportunity to ensure stakeholders of all sizes are committed to protecting the planet. If we are all on the same page and coordinate our efforts accordingly, then I'm sure we will be successful and achieve our goals. Working together to cultivate renewable energy is vital if we are to decarbonize the economy and restore our natural environment. Nepal is a country with incredible potential to be a world leader in renewable energy sources, and we must find a way to strengthen that growth. The International Finance Corporation says that Nepal is the world's second richest country in terms of its inland water resources, with so many rivers and tributaries. This is an incredible resource which we must harness. If encouraged properly, such infrastructure could ultimately provide electricity not just for Nepal, but for surrounding countries such as Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India. Through impact investment, we can build the necessary equipment to ensure Nepal is at the forefront of the fight against climate change and a leading light for others to follow. Indeed, private sector investment is a growing area for Nepal. I acknowledge the presence of Mr. Tim Goucher, CEO of Dolma Impact Investment Fund, and I know he's working hard to secure Nepal's future in this area. We are concerned about the melting of snow in the Himalayas, and this will indeed create havoc, not only in India, but also in Bangladesh. I have therefore written to Alok Sharma, President of COP26, on this issue with input from Tim Goucher. Impact investing is a growing market which offers investors an opportunity to drive social and environmental progress with the prospect of encouraging financial returns. Ethical finance is the future of investing, and Nepal's potential as a giant in hydropower and renewable energy should not be overlooked. I may add that I co-chair the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Islamic Finance, and I suggest that Islamic finance can be used to assist Nepal in reaching its environmental targets. Islamic finance provides support to projects which help communities and can be another effective measure we can utilize to ensure Nepal's transition to greener energy. Ultimately, I believe Nepal should one day become a cornerstone for any impact investment strategy. The massive potential for renewable energy and wider benefit for surrounding areas make it a viable and worthwhile solution. Such purposeful financing will underpin our efforts as we look to recover from COVID-19 and win the war against climate change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lord Sheikh, for such an entertaining presentation filled with anecdotes and filled with warmth towards the government of Nepal. Thank you so much for that, Lord Sheikh. And now I'm very pleased to introduce the next part of the programme, which is going to be managed by Suvesha from the Board of Investment. And this is the substantive part of the content that comes from the government of Nepal in particular. Over to you, Suvesha. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished dignitaries and esteemed participants. We are extremely delighted to extend our warmest welcome to all of you to the UK-Nepal Energy Transition and Countdown to COP26. Now, allow me the privilege of inviting Honorable Finance Minister and Vice Chair of the Investment Board Nepal, Mr. Janardhan Sharma, for his keynote address.
United Kingdom Nepal व्यापार तथा लगानी फोरम का सभापति लॉर्ड शेख, लगानी बोर्ड नेपाल का प्रमुख कार्यकारी अधिकृत श्री सुशील भट्ट, नेपाल का लागि बेलायती राजदूत महामहिम निकोला पोलिट, सहभागी महिला तथा सज्जनवृन्द, विश्वको सर्वोच्च शिखर सगरमाथाको देश नेपालबाट यो अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण सभामा उपस्थित भई आफ्ना कुरा राख्न पाउँदा आज मलाई गौरवको अनुभूति भएको छ। अहिलेको जल्दो बल्दो विषयमा यस प्रकारको समसामयिक कार्यक्रम सञ्चालन गरी आफ्ना भनाइ राख्न दिनुभएकोमा आयोजकलाई धन्यवाद भन्न चाहन्छु। यो अवसरमा सर्वप्रथम म नेपालले दिगो विकासको लक्ष्यलाई आत्मसात गरी सोही अनुसारको सिद्धान्त तथा रणनीतिलाई अवलम्बन गर्दै आफ्ना विकासका गतिविधिहरू सञ्चालन गरिरहेको यहाँहरूलाई जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। मैले नै नेतृत्व गरिरहेको अर्थ मन्त्रालयले नै हरित जलवायु कोषको लागि तोकिएको निकायको रूपमा काम गरिरहेको छ र सोही अनुसार हरित पूर्वाधारका कामहरू अगाडि बढाइरहेको यहाँ सुनाउन पाउँदा म थप हर्षित छु। हरित पूर्वाधारका लागि वैदेशिक लगानी भित्र्याउन आवश्यक नीतिहरू पनि क्रमशः बन्दै गइरहेका छन्। यस प्रकारको विकासका लागि वित्तीय आवश्यकता पूरा गर्न कोषले 2 वटा संयन्त्र मार्फत आबद्धता दिने गरेको सर्वविदितै छ। पहिलो, सरकार मार्फतका निकाय सूचीकृत हुने र उनीहरू हरित जलवायु कोषको लागि योग्य भई तिनले वित्तीय स्रोत प्राप्त गर्ने रहेको छ भने दोस्रोमा निजी क्षेत्रले प्राप्त गर्ने बाटो पनि स्पष्ट गरेको छ। हालसम्म नेपाल स्थित 2 वटा संस्थाहरू क्रमशः राष्ट्रिय प्रकृति संरक्षण कोष, गैर सरकारी संस्था र नेपाल सरकारको वैकल्पिक ऊर्जा प्रवर्धन केन्द्रले उक्त कोषको रकम प्राप्त गर्ने योग्यता पूरा गरी सूचीकृत भइसकेका छन् भने निजी क्षेत्रको नेपाल इन्भेस्टमेन्ट बैंक लिमिटेड र सरकार मार्फत सञ्चालनमा रहेको शहरी विकास कोष यसको सूचीमा आबद्ध हुने क्रममा रहेका छन्। आजको यो कार्यक्रमले नवीकरणीय ऊर्जा मिश्रण तथा हरित पूर्वाधारको विषयलाई केन्द्रबिन्दुमा राखेर छलफल गरिरहेको थाहा पाउँदा मलाई अत्यन्त खुसी लागेको छ। विद्युतीय परिवहनको सेवा बढाउने उद्देश्यले हामीले यस वर्षबाट विद्युतीय चार्जिङ स्टेसन निर्माणका लागि बजेट विनियोजन गरेका छौँ। त्यसैगरी ग्यास चुलोलाई प्रतिस्थापन गर्ने तथा विद्युतीय चुलोमा अनुदान दिने नीति अनुसार आवश्यक बजेट छुट्याएका छौँ। साथै विद्युतीय सवारी साधनमा लाग्दै आएको भन्सार महसुल दरलाई अत्यन्त न्यून बिन्दुमा झारेका छौँ। महिला तथा सज्जनवृन्द, वैदेशिक लगानी प्रवर्धन गर्ने र भित्र्याउने मूल जिम्मेवारीका साथ सम्माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यू नै अध्यक्ष रहने गरी नेपाल सरकारको उच्च स्तरीय निकायको रूपमा 10 वर्ष अघि स्थापना भएको लगानी बोर्डले 2 वटा ठूला जलविद्युत परियोजनाहरूको विकास निर्माणका लागि परियोजना विकास सम्झौता गरिरहेको छ। 900 मेगावाट जडित क्षमता यी 2 परियोजनाले भारत तथा बङ्गलादेशमा विद्युत निर्यात गर्नेछन्। नेपालमा उत्पादित स्वच्छ ऊर्जा निर्यातले छिमेकी मुलुकको कार्बनको भार समेत कटौती गर्न सहयोग पुग्ने विश्वास मैले लिएको छु। यसले कार्बन व्यापारको लागि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय बजारको ढोका पनि खोल्नेछ। यद्यपि अरू स्वच्छ ऊर्जाका परियोजना जस्तै यसको लागि पनि स्वच्छ विकास संयन्त्र मार्फत वित्तीय स्रोत सुनिश्चित गर्ने प्रयोजनका लागि आवश्यक नीति निर्माण गरी नेपालले स्वीकृति प्रदान गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। यसका लागि छिट्टै नै प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढाउने प्रतिबद्धता व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। साथै अब उपरान्त जलवायु परिवर्तनका सम्बन्धी संयुक्त राष्ट्रसङ्घीय संरचना महासन्धि र यसले अङ्गीकार गरेका नीति तथा निर्देशिका अनुरूप हरित जलवायु कोषको परिचालन तथा कार्यान्वयन गर्नुपर्ने वास्तविकताप्रति पनि हामी उत्तिकै चनाखो र प्रतिबद्ध सचेत छौँ। लगानी बोर्डको उपाध्यक्षको नाताले म भन्न चाहन्छु कि सन् 2011 मा स्थापना भएको लगानी बोर्डले आफ्नो स्थापना कालदेखि नै वैदेशिक लगानी मार्फत आएका नवीकरणीय ऊर्जाका क्षेत्रहरू जस्तै जलविद्युत तथा सौर्य ऊर्जाका परियोजनाहरूको लागि सार्वजनिक निजी साझेदारीको अवधारणामा प्रवर्धन तथा सहजीकरण गर्दै आइरहेको छ। हामीले लगानी बोर्ड मार्फत निकट भविष्यमै राजधानी काठमाडौँको चक्रपथमा विद्युतीय बस र्यापिड ट्रान्जिटको विकास गर्ने तयारी गरिरहेका छौँ। यसको सफलतासँगै मुलुकको अन्य मुख्य सहरहरू क्रमशः पोखरा प्रख्यात पर्यटकीय सहर विराटनगर तथा नेपालगञ्ज पनि यस्तो सेवा विस्तार गर्दै जानेछौँ, जहाँ राष्ट्रिय अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय विकास साझेदार एवं निजी क्षेत्रले आफ्नो व्यावसायिक हात बढाई सहकार्य गर्न सक्छन्। हामीले धेरै अघिदेखि नै विद्युतीय यातायातको सुरुवात गरेका छौँ। तराईका सहरहरूमा ब्याट्री जटित रिक्साले परम्परागत रिक्सालाई विस्थापित गर्दै आएका छन् भने सन् 90 को दशकमै काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाको वायु प्रदूषण घटाउने उद्देश्यले खनिज इन्धनबाट सञ्चालित 3 पाङ्ग्रे टेम्पोलाई सफा टेम्पो मार्फत विद्युतीय परिवहन सेवाले प्रतिस्थापन गरेको सुनौलो ऐतिहासिक दृष्टान्त पनि हामीसँग सुरक्षित छ। त्यो एउटा निकै सकारात्मक फड्को लिएको अवस्था थियो त्यति बेला, तर विविध कारणले विगतमा यसले निरन्तरता पाई विस्तार हुन सकेन। यद्यपि सरकारले गत आर्थिक वर्षदेखि नै 300 वटा विद्युतीय बस खरिदका लागि उपत्यकाका महानगर तथा नगरपालिका र साझा यातायातको सहकार्यमा ठुला बस सञ्चालन गर्ने योजना पनि अगाडि सारेको छ। यसका अतिरिक्त नेपाली निजी क्षेत्र पनि विद्युतीय बस सञ्चालन गर्ने तयारीका साथै विद्युतीय मोटरसाइकल उत्पादनमा लागेको छ। त्यति मात्र होइन, विद्युतीय गाडी उत्पादन गर्नेतिर पनि हामी अगाडि बढिरहेका छौँ। हामीसँग खनिज इन्धनको उपलब्धता नरहेको एवं कार्बन उत्सर्जनमा हाम्रो योगदान अत्यन्त न्यून रहेको अवस्थामा भए पनि पछिल्ला दिनमा हामीहरू जलवायु परिवर्तनको असर खेप्न बाध्य भइरहेका छौँ भन्ने वास्तविकता हामीले राम्रोसँग बुझेका छौँ। सोही अनुसार पछिल्ला दिनमा हाम्रा प्रयासहरू क्रमशः कार्बन उत्सर्जन घटाउने वा अनुकूलनका लागि दिगो आर्थिक विकास समृद्धितर्फको यात्रालाई अगाडि बढाउनेमा केन्द्रित रहेको छन्। हामी यति बेला एसियाकै पानीको मुहानको रूपमा रहेका हाम्रा 6000 भन्दा बढी नदी नालाहरूको भरपूर उपयोग गरी नवीकरणीय ऊर्जाको उपयोगमा केन्द्रित हुँदै आएका छौँ र हालका दिनहरूमा सौर्य ऊर्जा परियोजनाहरूको विकास पनि तीव्र गतिमा भइरहेको हुँदा नवीकरणीय ऊर्जाका अन्य स्रोतमा पनि अग्रसर भएका छौँ। यसको समुचित उत्पादन तथा प्रयोगले नेपालमा मात्र नभई यो क्षेत्रका सदस्य राष्ट्रहरूले कार्बन तटस्थताको यात्रामा हातेमालो गर्न सक्ने प्रचुर सम्भावना पनि उत्तिकै प्रबल छ। त्यसतर्फको लगानीका लागि यहाँहरू सबैलाई यही मञ्चबाट म आह्वान गर्न चाहन्छु। यति बेला हामी आफूले नगरेको दोषको परिणाम भोग्न बाध्य भइरहेका छौँ, किनभने हामीहरू जलवायु परिवर्तनको सूचकको रूपमा देखिने अतिवृष्टि, खण्डवृष्टि र अनावृष्टिको चपेटामा परेर हाम्रा विकासका संरचना मात्र ध्वस्त भएका छैनन्, जनधनको क्षति पनि हामीले बेहोरिरहेका छौँ, जुन नेपाल जस्तो अल्प विकसित राष्ट्रले ठेक्न सक्दैन। हामीले सुरुवातदेखि नै जलवायु सम्बन्धी पक्ष राष्ट्रको सम्मेलनमा आफ्ना सवालहरू उठाइरहेका छौं। आवश्यक नीति, ऐन, नियम तथा योजना तर्जुमा गरी संस्थागत संरचना मार्फत जलवायु परिवर्तनको प्रमुख कारक तत्त्वका रूपमा रहेको कार्बन उत्सर्जन घटाउने तथा अनुकूलनका कार्यक्रमहरू पनि कार्यान्वयनमा ल्याएका छौं। हामीले जलवायु परिवर्तनका कारणहरूसँग जुझ्न विभिन्न लक्षित 2021 देखि 2030 सम्मको 10 वर्ष अवधिका लागि वित्तीय व्यवस्थापन गर्ने जमर्को गरिरहेका छौं। यस सन्दर्भमा दुई प्रकारका लक्ष्यहरू तय भएका छन्, सशर्त र निशर्त। निशर्त लक्ष्य प्राप्तिका लागि 3.4 अर्ब अमेरिकी डलरको लागत अनुमान छ भने उत्सर्जन घटाउनका लागि सशर्त 25 अर्ब अमेरिकी डलर अनुमानित लागत रहेको छ। सशर्त लक्ष्य भेटाउन जलवायु सम्बन्धी स्थापना भएका विभिन्न कोषहरू जस्तै हरित जलवायु कोष, विश्व वातावरण कोष, अनुकूलन कोष तथा अति कम विकसित राष्ट्रलाई उपलब्ध गराइने कोष एवं द्विपक्षीय तथा बहुपक्षीय विकास साझेदारबाट रकम प्राप्त हुने अपेक्षा नेपालले गरेको छ। नेपालले जलवायु परिवर्तनको चुनौती तथा अवसरहरूको बारेमा सदस्य राष्ट्रबीच आफ्ना धारणाहरू राख्दै आएको छ। यही अवसरमा फेरि पनि एकपटक म यहाँहरू सबैलाई लगानी बोर्ड मार्फत हरित पूर्वाधारका लगानी गरी लाभान्वित हुन तथा सन् 2030 सम्म उच्च मध्यम आयको राष्ट्रको स्तरमा पुग्ने नेपालको लक्ष्यमा सघाउन अनुरोध गर्दै नेपाल सरकारका तर्फबाट हर तरहको सहयोग तथा सहजीकरण गर्ने प्रतिबद्धता जाहेर गर्दछु। महिला तथा सज्जनवृन्द, अन्त्यमा नेपाल र बेलायतको दौत्य सम्बन्धले 2 शताब्दीको इतिहास बोकेको छ। त्यसैले हाम्रो दिगो विकासको लागि हरित पूर्वाधारमा लगानी बढाउन आपसी सहयोगलाई अझ बढोत्तरी गर्दै लानुपर्ने आवश्यकता झन् टटकारो भएको छ। हामीसँग उपलब्ध अपार प्राकृतिक स्रोतको समुचित उपयोग, व्यवस्थापन एवं सामूहिक उपलब्धिका लागि साझेदारीको हात बढाउँदै आर्थिक समृद्धि, वातावरणीय असन्तुलन तथा जलवायु परिवर्तनका नकारात्मक असरहरूबाट बच्न र बचाउन सहकार्य गरौँ भन्ने अपील गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवादका साथ नमस्कार।
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful deliberation. Now, we move towards the next session. To start with, I would like to invite Mr. Madhu Prasad Bhetwal, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, for his presentation on energy mix in Nepal.
Namaskar. I am going to present Diversifying the Nepal's energy mix. I will cover Nepal's energy situation and resource potential, major policies, key priorities on energy sector, regional cooperation, energy banking, and conclusions. In 2010, our major energy resource is fuel wood, which is around 78%. And in 2021, major energy resources is firewood, which is around 62.4%. And electricity contribution is only 2.03% in 2010, and which increased to 3.8% in 2021. In Nepal's energy mix, our target in comparing to 2019 and 2050, we want to, the present situation is in 2019, fuel wood is 62.2%. By 2050, we want to decrease it to 22%. Similarly, we want to, electricity energy is 5.8%, and we want to increase it to 33%. Considering that today's electrification issue, total installed capacity is 2078 megawatt, of which grid connected hydro is 1910 megawatt, grid connected solar is 40 megawatt from 5 projects, thermal is 53.4 megawatt, cogeneration 3 megawatt, and renewables from micro, mini hydropower and solar project is 72 megawatt. So far, access to electricity is 93% household, of which 90% from grid and 3% is from off-grid. Electricity consumption is very low. It's around 260 kilowatt hour per capita. And in the cooking system, for the moment, 1.5 million people are using improved cook stoves. 5.5 million households are using biogas, and 22.5% households are using LPG. Still, more than 68% of the households are using traditional biomass, that means firewood, agricultural residue, dried dung. While talking about Nepal's renewables potential, hydro is, we have more potential, around 42,000 megawatt power projects, hydropower projects are economically feasible. Sunshine hours, roughly it is 6.8 hours in a day, and solar isolation is 4.5 kilowatt hour per square meter per day. Wind potential is 3,000 megawatt. The key policies we have taken are Hydropower Development Policy 2001, Rural Energy Policy 2006, Renewable Energy Subsidy Policy 2016, Renewable Energy Subsidy Delivery Mechanisms, Biomass Energy Strategy 2017, National Energy Efficiency Strategy 2018, National Climate Change Policy 2019, Second Nationally Determined Contribution 2020. These are key policy documents and strategies. Nepal's SDG status from 2016 to 2030. The ultimate aim is to provide universal access to affordable, reliable and modern energy for all, of which we want to increase electricity as access to 99% population. We want to reduce dependency on firewood to below up to 30%. We want to limit LPG to less than 40%. And also want to increase electricity capacity around 15,000 megawatt. Thereby, electricity consumption to be increased to 1,500 kilowatt hour per capita. In the 15th five-year plan, ongoing 15th five-year plan, key energy sector targets are to install 5,000 megawatt capacity, 100% electrification, and we want to increase electricity consumption to 700 kilowatt, of which renewable energy in the overall energy consumption we would be around 12%. We want to diversify our energy mix. Especially, we want to keep our reservoir-based projects to around 30 to 35%. Semi-reservoir projects around 25 to 30%. Alternate sources of electricity, solar, wind, and microhydro around 5 to 10%. So as to have electricity security in the country. Also, we want to conclude bilateral and multilateral electricity trade agreements with neighboring countries in the region. We have also adopted energy sector vision, Nepal's energy sector vision 2050, where by 2050 the total installed capacity to be increased to 31,000 megawatt, of which off-grid renewables will be around 1200 megawatt. We have prepared a roadmap and the concept is to promote energy mix and energy efficiency for enhancing energy security. We have prioritized the grid connection of renewables by net metering and net payment systems. We have announced to generate 15,000 megawatt electricity by 2030, of which 5 to 10% shall be contributed from non-hydro renewables, particularly solar energy, wind energy, and bioenergy. And we have 7 provinces, and in each province we want to develop large mega projects, and at least we want to generate 200 megawatt from solar by developing solar plants around 100 to 500 kilowatt in all 753 local government units. In the second NDC 2020, our attempt is to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050, and the mitigating sectors are: one is energy, industrial processes and product use, and another is agriculture, forestry and other land use, and waste. In case of energy, by 2030 we want to generate electricity 15,000 megawatt, of which 5 to 10% will be from mini micro hydro power, solar and bioenergy. And by 2030 we want to ensure 15% of the total energy demand is supplied from clean energy resources. In the second NDC 2020, in the transport sector, we want to increase electric vehicles. By 2025, 25% of all private passengers vehicles will be in our transportation system. In case of residential cooking and biogas, by 2030, our aim is to use electric stoves at least 25% of household for primary mode of cooking. While talking about regional cooperation in trade, we have signed power trade agreement with India that provides a legal framework to Nepal to access Indian market and ultimately to the regional markets. In 2014, we have also signed SAARC framework agreement on energy cooperation that paved the way for relevant institutions in the respective countries to develop transmission interconnectivity within the region to allow cross-border electricity trade. Regarding energy banking, we have proposed Government of India for energy banking, from which generated power, especially in the monsoon season, could be exported to India, and during the lean season, at which power generation in Nepal will be less, at that time we can import electricity from India to meet our domestic demand. In the end, through grid interconnection, cross-border power trade and energy banking, the energy resources in our region could be optimally utilized, and energy security in our region could be enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, let me have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Radha Wagle, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Forest and Environment, for her presentation on Roadmap to Nepal's Strategic Engagement in the COP26, Enhancing Private Sector Partnership.
Okay, welcome in my presentation. Today I am going to present about Nepal's strategic engagement in UNFCCC COP26 in relation to enhancing private sector partnership on behalf of Ministry of Forest and Environment. And first of all, this is my outline of the presentation. I will provide the brief introduction of Ministry of Forest and Environment at a glance and climate change context of Nepal, and then followed by Nepal's roadmap to COP26 and enhancing private sector partnership, and finally the way forward. And while we come to the Ministry of Forest and Environment, we have basically three major mandates. The first one is forest and biodiversity and watershed conservation. And the second one is environment protection and air pollution control and waste management and greenery promotion. And the final and the very important one is climate change mitigation and the adaptation. And we know that climate impacts in Nepal is very challenging, and we can see the various impact of climate change which is challenging every sectors, and that is even more challenging for us because of our unique topography with different elevation-based ecoregions, nature-based livelihood, poverty and marginalization, and we have low adaptive capacity and resilience to cope with all those impact of climate change. And currently we have the temperature increment, annual temperature increment is 0.056 degree in Nepal, and in the scenario of 1.5 to 2.7 degrees Celsius temperature increment, we will have various detrimental impact on our sectors, different sectors, and currently we are facing 1.5 to 2% GDP loss in country's economy, and the differential impacts in the Himalaya is very prominent. For example, the glacier melting and the globs issue, and similarly all those impact is we can see in water, energy, food, biodiversity, urban, rural settlement and tourism. And if the temperature rises 3.5 degrees centigrade in future, and the GDP loss will be 13% annually in projected scenario, and it will have very detrimental impact all the people across the country. Moreover, the poor, indigenous, marginalized, women, girls, children, disabled and elderly people will be more impacted by this climate change. And however, Nepal is responding very well to climate change with various policy and institutional initiatives. And Nepal is party to UNFCCC, and it has also ratified a Kyoto Protocol, and Nepal started several local level adaptation plan. We have prepared our first ever national adaptation plan in 2010, and then we have implemented various local adaptation plan activities in local level. We also have climate change policy which was formulated back in 2011, and now we have new national climate change policy based on our new constitution, and we have several policy guidelines and institutional framework to implement the climate action in field. And currently we are developing our national adaptation plan, and we have already submitted our second nationally determined contribution, which has ambitious targets on mitigation, and also we have provided some adaptation actions in NDC, and we have committed in through our NDC that we will reach by net zero emission by 2050 by adopting various low carbon development technology. And we have prepared a very crystal clear roadmap to present ourselves in COP26, and we would like to raise our country's profile, visibility and position through international collaboration in climate actions. And for that we have participated in various participated and organized various national and international programs. And we have submitted various documents to UNFCCC, for example, NDC, Third National Communication Report, And currently we are preparing NAP and long-term development, long-term strategy for achieving net zero gas emission, which we are going to submit in UNFCCC soon. And we have also doing various preparatory work to present ourselves in better negotiation position in UNFCCC. And there are some strategic priorities and needs. And we are committed to net zero emission by 2015, and we would like to maintain our 45% forest sustainably managed. We want to take the leadership of mountain issues, Himalayas for the humanity, and reduce further climate-induced loss and damage. And similarly, to implement all those climate actions, we need huge amount of resources. And our NDC costed 25 billion US$ for mitigation and actions to achieve the quantified target only, and there are some more resources necessary to implement its policy target, and even more resources needs for our upcoming adaptation plan. And similarly, we need to improve our governance and capacity. For that, we need better institutional structure, and we need to capacitate our human resources too. And now it is the time for rolling out all the policies and priorities into action. And I think there is a tremendous opportunity for private sector engagement in climate action. We would like to make favorable environment for the investment of private sector in climate change. For example, our National Climate Change Policy 2019 indicated that mobilization of finance from private sector will be encouraged through green bond, blended finance, result-based financing, carbon offset, and corporate social responsibility. Similarly, GCF accreditation process also, there is opportunity for GCF accreditation process and access the climate financing for GCF. Development and commercial banks are encouraged to go through GCF accreditation process to become nationally accredited agency so that they can access the fund for the climate actions. And similarly, our second nationally determined contribution also presented financing framework along with a strategy to streamline access to fund while bridging the gaps in public and private sectors. And in our NDC, we have clearly mentioned that we will generate 15,000 megawatt of clean energy by 2030. And now we are only having 1,400 megawatt energy generation. And there is a tremendous opportunity for the private sector investment. Similarly, we are planning to replace fossil fuel vehicle by electric vehicle, and we can gradually replace the GHG emitting vehicles by electric vehicles. And similarly, we have target for ensuring 25% of household using electric stove by 2030. And there is also an opportunity, and similarly in installing improved cookie stoves, household biogas, and installing large scale biogas. There is also the opportunity for partnership. And moreover, we are maintaining our 45% forest area, and in which we are planning to sustainably manage 50% of Tarai and inner Tarai forest and 25% of middle hill and mountain forest. And maybe we can also increase our partnership in sustainable forest management and also the enterprises development based on that forest products. And private sector engagement in building resilience and investment on green and climate resilience and inclusive development. The investment in the green sector such as agriculture, forestry, water resources, where private sector investment is crucial. And investment on technology development and transfer, that is also a crucial area. And then adaptation technologies that can benefit the farmer and poor household. There is also huge opportunity for private sector engagement. And investment on insurance and social protection scheme. For example, we have observed climate-induced loss and damage and other crop failure like like things, maybe we can introduce the insurance mechanism to build the resilience of local people and livelihood. In conclusion, the strategies and working policy to achieve climate target by mobilizing private sector are mobilizing finance, access resources from available international financial mechanisms such as GCF, GEF, CIF and others. And similarly, we have 80% finance should be mobilized in local level and climate vulnerable population. That is written in our climate change policy, and we can better target on this 80% implementation in local level, and similarly provide innovative climate solution by mobilizing finance through green bond, blended finance, result-based financing, carbon offset and corporate social responsibility to implement innovative climate solution. And Nepal envisions achieving socio-economic prosperity by building climate resilient society. I think we can partnership with our private investor to achieve this climate resilient society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We move towards the next speaker. I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Sagarraj Gautam, the Senior Divisional Engineer, Office of the Investment Board Nepal, for his presentation on IBN and investment opportunities in green infrastructure in Nepal.
Namaskar from Kathmandu. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to put forward this presentation on Investment Board Nepal and investment opportunities in green infrastructure in Nepal. My presentation has 7 parts. I will start with a brief about the country, touching upon plans, programs of Government of Nepal and major laws relating to investment and the process. I will also briefly provide some relevant information about the Investment Board Nepal, its strategic plan, the green projects and green concept embedded projects, and lastly, I will end my deliberation with a note on a way forward. Nepal, as we know, is a country located in the South Asian region with a booming market of almost 30 million people. Nepal, in terms of its population, is the 49th largest country in the world, larger than some of the European countries and Australia. Situated between the two rising economies of the world, China and India, Nepal is not a landlocked country, rather a land-linked country which has an open and easy access to the market of about 2.8 billion people. Besides its access to neighboring markets, being a member of the multilateral and the regional institutions like MEGA, WTO, BIMSTEC and SAFTA, Nepal has an easy market access to the world. Nepal also enjoys a duty-free, quota-free access to European Union and duty-free access to United States for some limited products. Apart from the open and easy market access to the world, Nepal, with an improved industrial relation in the last decade, also has a young, vibrant and the competitive labor force with increasing labor productivity. To create a conducive environment for investment and promote Nepal as an attractive investment destination, Government of Nepal has reformed and revised many policies and laws in the past years. It has also signed bilateral investment promotion protection agreement with many countries, including the United Kingdom. Apart from this, Nepal has also signed a double taxation avoidance agreement with many countries in the world. If we talk about Nepal in South Asia, it is the country with the 3rd most favorable business climate, 5th most competitive trade logistics performer, and the 4th most competitive economy. The Government of Nepal has been implementing 15th Plan of Development that envisions investment of over $79 billion in the 5 years period starting 2019. Out of this estimation, government expects about 56% of investment realizing from the private sector. As per the plan, the contribution of the industry sector in the GDP will increase from existing 6.5% to more than 20% in the plan period. This creates a lot of room for the private investment in various sectors. Like I said, Government of Nepal in the past has reformed many laws related to investment, laws like Environment Protection Act, Foreign Investment and Technology Transfer Act, Public-Private Partnership and Investment Act, Company Act, Industrial Enterprises Act have been amended and revised to create an investment-friendly environment. The regulations related to these acts have also been promulgated to implement the provisions mentioned in the acts. Now let me briefly inform you about the Public-Private Partnership and Investment Act, which not only governs the IBN but also covers the overall PPP development process in Nepal. The PPPI Act and its regulations are the key legal instruments for PPP development and management in Nepal. OIBN, with the dedicated PPP unit, looks into the issues pertaining to PPP and provides facilitatory services to PPP projects. This Act mandates OIBN to identify, study and prepare project list and create project bank. Currently, OIBN is developing its project bank framework, which outlines the detailed process of project identification, selection, ranking appraisal and prioritization. 9 different PPP modalities for the project development are identified by this Act, along with the arrangement to enter into the project development agreement for sharing risks and obligations of parties involved. The PDA also clearly defines the responsibilities and compliances of parties. Viability gap funding is one of the key instruments identified by this Act for the project development that yield positive return in the long run. Now, this is the overall general investment process in Nepal. All projects with a project cost over approximately $51 million have to apply for the investment approval from the Investment Board Nepal, and the projects below this cost have to get approval from the Department of Industry. The standard process of business registration, clearance from the central bank, industry registration are some of the activities that follows. For the projects which falls under the mandate of IBN, there is a provision of signing project development agreement for PPP projects and project investment agreement for private projects. These agreements are bankable documents. Now let me brief you all about the Investment Board Nepal, which was established in the year 2011 to fast-track mega investment projects in Nepal. The Public-Private Partnership and Investment Act, promulgated in 2019 and the subsequent regulation in 2020, has given a mandate to IBN to manage and develop public-private partnership projects and facilitate the private investment projects. In addition to that, IBN is also responsible for executing the investment promotion functions. IBN is a high-level government agency chaired by Right Honourable Prime Minister, with some of the key ministers and the head of some government agencies as a member of the board. There is a representation from the private sector. CEO, Chief Executive Officer, is the member secretary as well as the head of the IBN Secretariat, commonly known as the Office of Investment Board Nepal. This is where I work. Recently, IBN came up with a 5-year strategic plan with 4 strategic pillars comprising of project development and management, investment promotion, institutional development, and coordination, collaboration, and partnership. During this period, our goal is to develop IBN as a PPP center of excellence, approve at least $10 million, manage PPP projects of at least $6 billion, contribute to the generating employment opportunities to at least 100,000 people, and contribute to improving investment environment through effective investment promotion. Our vision is to develop Nepal as an attractive investment destination, and our mission is to accelerate investment in transformative infrastructure. Our core values are professionalism, innovation, integrity, transparency, team spirit, accountability, collaboration, and excellence. Now let me talk about few of the green projects under the portfolio of IBN. Energy projects are the dominant projects, in particular the hydropowers, which are being managed and facilitated by IBN. 900 megawatt Arun 3 hydroelectric project, an export-oriented project with an estimated cost of $1.1 billion, is approaching halfway of its construction work. Other energy projects like 679 megawatt Lower Arun hydroelectric project, 756 megawatt Tamur storage hydroelectric project, 327 megawatt Upper Marsangdi hydroelectric project, and 250 megawatt power grid-connected solar projects are in the various stages of project development. These projects will not only help Nepal transiting from the traditional energy to the green energy, but also pave the way for the neighboring countries to benefit from the development of green infrastructure projects. On the side of the green embedded projects, the cement manufacturing projects with a private investment facilitated by IBN are Hongsi and the Waksin, which are equipped with the energy efficient waste heat recovery plants that utilizes the waste heat to produce power. Currently, Hongsy is generating 12 megawatt from such system and is planning to have another 12 megawatt in the second phase. Additionally, Hongsy has installed electrostatic precipitator as a filtration system that filters the dust particles to the maximum extent. Similarly, washing cement plant is also planning to generate 6 megawatt from the waste heat recovery system and to install such filtration mechanism in the plant system. Nepal aspires to graduate to a middle-income country by 2030. In order to fulfill these aspirations, tremendous amount of investments will be required and thereby investment opportunities in all sectors. Some of the priority sectors where there is a huge potential for green investments are energy, tourism and transportation. Lastly, on the way forward, I would like to say that in the context of ensuring attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, Government of Nepal has been encouraging and promoting investment in the green infrastructure projects and will continue to do so since our plans and policies are aligned towards this. There is an ample opportunities for garnering investment in large infrastructure projects, and IBN as a high-powered board is the first reference point for investment in Nepal. It will continue to promote and accelerate private investment, including FDI in the country. On behalf of the Office of Investment Board Nepal, I request all the potential investors, development partners as an influencer to look out for the avenues where we could collaborate on leveraging green investment in the country. With this, I have reached to the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you all for your kind participation. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we move towards the next session, which features a spotlight on investment opportunities in Nepal, especially in energy sector, where we will get an opportunity to hear from the thought leaders from various institutions. To start this session, I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Kulman Gising, who is the Managing Director of Nepal Electricity Authority, for his remark. NEA is the sole government agency which is responsible for generating, transmitting, and distributing energy in Nepal.
Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, good morning from Nepal. First of all, I would like to thank organizer for inviting me to speak on UK-Nepal energy transition and countdown to COP26. At present, Nepal has total generation capacity of 2000 megawatt, out of which 1950 megawatt is from hydropower and remaining 50 megawatt from other sources like grid solar and biomass generations. Nepal has a hydropower potential of 83,000 megawatt. We have been able to generate around 2% of total capacity, but there are many projects under construction. Around 3,000 megawatt projects are now under construction and 2,500 megawatt projects are under different stages of development. Demand and supply situation of Nepal is different at different seasons. We have more generation in wet season and generation reduces to 1/3 of wet season in dry season. So generation reduces by 2/3 in dry season. So this demand and supply gap in dry season is very much difficult part in energy management of Nepal. During wet season, we have demand of 1,500 to 1,600 megawatt at peak time, whereas generation is around 1,900 megawatt. We have surplus at present in wet season, but in dry season, we have to import some electricity from India to fulfill our demand. Dry season and wet season demand is almost same in all the months, but generation gap is there in different months of the season. Generation reduces from wet season to dry season. This situation creates us surplus situation in wet season and deficit situation in dry season. As Nepal's hydropower is clean and green, we are developing more and more hydropower projects. Our consumption is increasing every year by 15 to 20%. We are consuming clean energy from hydropower. Our drive in electrification in different villages and different industrial areas and irrigation areas gives us more consumption in electric cooking as well as in industrial consumption. Our effort in consumption of electricity in electrical vehicles is going on. For this, we are going to install infrastructure like charging station in different places of the country, so that electrical vehicles can be promoted. Government has also promoted electrical vehicle by subsidizing the import duties, and we are promoting electrical cooking in villages and cities with the subsidized price. Nepal has made 90% of grid electricity electrification target last year. We are going to electrify whole country by next 2 years. That means grid will be available in all the households of Nepal, except some few remote villages where grid cannot be accessible. Nepal is importing LPG gas for cooking, which amounts 40 billion rupees per year. We are going to replace cooking by electrical induction cooking. That will reduce greenhouse gas emission also. Nepal is also importing petrol and diesel amounting rupees 150 billion per year. Nepal has target of 50% electrical vehicle by 2030. That will substantially reduce the import of petrol and diesel. We are also implementing energy efficiency program in different sectors, industrial, domestic, and commercial sectors. Promotion of electrical vehicles, electrical cooking, and energy efficiency will reduce the fossil fuel import of Nepal. As Nepal's consumption is 100% renewable hydropower, clean and green energy, when we are 100% reliance on domestic generation, we are 100% clean. And we are going to export electricity in wet season by next year. That will replace fossil fuel generation in India and Bangladesh. That is the replacement of fossil fuel by clean energy of Nepal. So that will also contribute to the global climate change mitigation. After 2 to 3 years, Nepal is going to be self-reliant in dry season also. So we are going to export our electricity mostly in wet season to neighboring countries. That will replace coal-based electricity generation in neighboring countries, which contributes to climate change mitigations. Nepal's hydropower not only meet the target of renewable to the neighboring countries, it also complement to the solar generation of neighboring countries. Nepal's hydropower can replace fossil fuel imports as well as complement to solar generation of neighboring countries. Nepal is going to be only hydro generation country. We are going to be a carbon neutral country in the near future. In this context, we are very happy to be self-sustained with our hydropower generation to meet the energy need of the country. We have immense potential of hydropower generation and other sectors of energy. Finally, I would like to invite investors from all over the world to invest in Nepal, in hydropower, in other sectors of energy transition. I would also like to invite investors in industrial and other infrastructure projects of Nepal, where clean, green, sustainable and affordable energy of Nepal's hydropower can be utilized and which also contribute to the global climate change effect. Finally, I would like to thank the organizer of UK-Nepal Energy Transition and Countdown to COP26.
Thank you, sir. Now, I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Madhusudan Adhikari for his remark. Dr. Adhikari is the Executive Director of Alternative Energy Promotion Center, a government agency which is responsible in promoting and mainstreaming alternative energy in Nepal.
Namaste to all. AEPC is established 25 years before to promote different renewable energy resources, to provide modern energy to rural areas. As the time passes, we have also grown up to different technologies and different sizes of the technologies, different sizes of the project. In this 25 years history, we were able to provide modern energy, electricity to around 20% of rural population for first time. We also reached to around 3.5 million people with some sort of rural and renewable energy technologies. And now in the modern time, as we are increasing our electricity reach by national grid, we are also diversifying our portfolios to upscale these renewable energy technologies, especially from household-based technology to community and institutional level, and from domestic to community-based biogas, from there to municipal level and waste-to-energy projects. In our hydro portfolio also, we started with the micro hydro. Now we are working on mini hydro schemes. So in these 25 years, we have graduated from a small to big, medium to our scale, and we have been working with many directional development partners, 3 levels of government, social organization, and all. In the changing contrast, as the world is geared up to have more sustainable ways to develop the countries, especially focusing on climate change issues, which is posing a big threat to modern civilization. The global initiative to save Mother Earth is in the priority. We call it as sustainable development once it is in line with the environmental aspect. One of the main reason of getting pollution to the world or getting the detrimental effect to the environment is also the sources of energy generation. The world is hungry to the energy, and energy generating resources has not been always environment friendly. The recent trend is how to minimize the adverse effect of climate change by energy generating resources. The globe is geared up. The lot of Earth Summit has happened. The latest one from the Paris, we have developed that we should have the certain commitment towards the reducing polluting gases. We call them greenhouse gas emissions. So the greenhouse gas emission level should be reduced. So the temperature rise of the Earth should be controlled, and so to say that the adverse climate effect should be minimized. So in that line, we are approaching two ways. One is mitigation approaches, where it directly reduces the emission of greenhouse gases, and then adaptive approaches where we focus to change our lifestyle, change our working pattern to adopt the threat posed by environment, which is not going to be minimized. So in that line, APC is always supporting the government of Nepal, especially promoting renewable energy technologies. And in that line, we are basically supporting government to scale up the access to the faster pace, where around 10% of the Nepalese population are deprived of electricity. So we are initiating solar mini grid, mini hydro schemes, and standalone solar home schemes to provide electricity to the last mile of the population. Similarly, in the grid approach area, we are promoting our rooftop programs, grid connected solar, that's a ground mounted solar also we call, and also we are connecting these mini and micro hydro built in the past to the grid to increase the reliability, quality of electricity in the grid areas. Also, there are a concept coming up with a battery storage backup system. When there is surplus energy, you can store in the battery, and in the peak hour, you can use this battery to provide electricity. That can be done in the pump storage system also. And the new concept of this battery storage system is also coming, and APC is also experimenting all these new things to support the maximizing use of electricity. And also, we are from the beginning working on the clean cooking arrangement. In the past, we have been working on the improved stoves, be it a mud stove or the metallic stove. We reached around 1.5 million households with the improved stoves. 500,000 people are using domestic biogas to convert waste into electricity, waste into the biogas to cook. And also we are now recently from 2017, we are working on energy efficiency. APC is given that mandate. So in this contest of different mix of these projects, we are also focal body on the carbon financing. We have been getting benefit from the CDM. We have registered 8 projects in CDM and got revenues. It's more than $20 million we have already received. And now we are also accredited to GCF, the Clean Climate Fund, and we are near to get 150 million project in clean cooking arrangement. So altogether, APC is working in different areas. Now the time has come, we should club our small technology, upscale them, and bring projects of investment grade, which could be financed through bilateral, multilateral financing. And these projects should be bankable to bring the private sector in the public-private partnership models. Recently, with the support from the FCDO, the UK government, we have launched one initiative called Sustainable Energy Challenge Fund, which is basically promoting private sector to bring new and innovative ideas in energy enterprising, which basically covers all the areas I have mentioned, from access to quality improvement to GCF to cooking to everything. So in these areas, looking at the new avenue, the financing mechanism through GCF, the discussion in COP, which is regularly happening, and the next COP is very soon going to be happening in UK. There will be a lot of discussion in this kind of areas. So APC, together with our Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment and Finance Ministry, we are developing carbon financing project in all these areas. And we would like to be part of this global society in protecting environment, bringing modern energy and energy enterprising to the all sector of our society. So in that line, the new avenues in a bigger scale investment project, especially in solar, wind, hybrid systems, clean cooking systems and energy efficiency systems, we are looking partnership with different stakeholders, including the private sector. Maybe we are already working with ADB and World Bank, and we will be looking for more vertical financing mechanism and innovative financing mechanism together with climate initiatives.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Shekhar Golcha for his deliberation. Mr. Golcha is a prominent industrialist and president of the Federation of Nepalese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, an apex private sector organization in Nepal.
Hello and good morning to all the participants. I find it a great pleasure and honor to be in the UK-Nepal energy transition and countdown to COP26. On behalf of FNCCI, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the organizers, Nepalese Embassy London, British Embassy Kathmandu, and the Office of the Investment Board, together with DMA of this event, for the warm hospitality extended towards us. Nepal is one of the richest countries in hydropower potential. The theoretical potential for hydropower in our country is more than 80,000 megawatt. We, as the apex body of which is FNCCI, has recently launched NET 2030, which we call our vision paper for year 2030. The main objective of this vision paper is to take our economy to $100 billion size by 2030, and also to create 2.3 million jobs in the organized sector. The third being, we want to reduce our trade deficit to half. And the fourth being that how we can create resilient economy. To fulfill all these objectives, we have made something which we call it the NET 2030. And in NET 2030, we have given optimum and efficient use of green energy and in the industrial sector. We all know hydropower is the greenest energy available, and in our vision paper, we have tried to make maximum use of this. The recent budget and monetary policy have also adapted most of the suggestions provided by FNCCI based on 2030, NET 2030. Nepalese economy is reviving rapidly after COVID, and we are ready to welcoming foreign investment in different sectors. As you are aware, Nepal is a very resilient economy. We, as private sector, have faced many challenges in the past. We have seen, political changes. We have seen insurgencies. We have seen power outages. We have seen earthquakes. We have seen blockades. But it is the private sector of Nepal which has been extremely resilient, that despite all the challenges, we have come out stronger. And now it's COVID. And of course, COVID, not only in Nepal, it has affected most of the businesses all around the world. There was a projection that we might go into a negative growth rate for a long period of time. But I would like to share that the World Bank has also recently said that this year the economy might grow up to 7%. And last year also we had a growth of almost 3%. So talking about resilience and opportunity, of course, 83,000 megawatt brings a lot of opportunities for investment into Nepal. Currently, we have signed a power purchase agreement with India, and we can sell energy to India as well as Bangladesh. There is, we feel around 5,000 megawatts can be consumed in Nepal by the industries, because there are scope of new industries in Nepal, which will be consuming a lot more industries, which was not coming just because there was not enough power. But now that we are going to be power surplus, we feel that the consumption in the country is also going to increase. So it is just the right time for British investors to look into Nepal. It's a very resilient economy. The potentials are there. The market is there. And I would like to welcome all the investors, the British investors, to look at Nepal in a much more serious and substantial way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valued remarks. Now, I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Vishnu Kumar Agrawal for his remark. Mr. Agrawal, who is a prominent industrialist in Nepal, is the president of the Confederation of Nepalese Industries, an apex private sector organization in Nepal.
Namaskar. A warm welcome to all the participants at the UK-Nepal Energy Transition and Countdown to COP26. I thank the Investment Board of Nepal, the British Embassy Kathmandu and the Nepalese Embassy London, because the issue of energy transition and climate change is very critical for the world. The UK will host 26th UN Climate Change Conference of Parties COP26 between November 1 and 12, 2021. The climate talks will bring together heads of state, climate experts and campaigners to agree coordinated action to tackle climate change. This year is going to be a breakthrough year, and world is going to watch what are the progress in climate changes being made through this conference. Nepal has potential of 80,000 megawatt in hydropower, 15,000 megawatt in solar and 5,000 megawatt in wind, all clean energy. Nepalese power generation industry is rapidly growing in Nepal with a current generation of 2200 megawatt. The capacity addition will be 5,000 megawatt in the next 5 years, with more than 180 projects under construction. It is to be noted that currently Nepalese private sector accounts for 60% of the generation, and this shall increase to 80% by 2025. This also shows the government's move to promote private investment in energy sector. The power consumption per person in Nepal is very low today, but this is likely to change rapidly because more people are choosing electric vehicles and using electricity to support household activities such as cooking, washing, clothes and many more. Similarly, electricity is being promoted in industries also and replacing conventional means of electricity. The power-hungry South Asian economies have a strong market for Nepalese hydropower. While India depends on coal for half of its power generation, and Bangladesh entire generation is in form of fossil fuels, Nepal has a very strong opportunity to contribute by replacing fossil fuels with its hydropower. Many opportunities exist for the investors globally to invest in Nepal. Hydropower, which has the strength to have a lasting impact on overall carbon footprint of South Asia, we feel that investment opportunity here are immense. Government is aggressively trying to promote public-private partnership. The Investment Board of Nepal is the government body that has secured approximately $5 billion worth of investments. They have also been trying to simplify procedures for foreign investors so that more and more FDI in related fields can be brought in Nepal. Few examples of success are especially in industrial and hydropower field. One of it is Hongshi Cement. Today such projects have led the country to be self-sufficient in cement in a matter of 10 years. Similarly, the Arun 3 hydropower plant is 900 megawatt run-of-the-river hydropower project under construction in Nepal. Scheduled for commissioning by 2024, it will be the biggest hydroelectric facility in Nepal. The project is worth approximately $1 billion. CNI is well positioned to facilitate between international business partners and large Nepalese industries for adoption of energy transition. Our members are big industries that use a lot of energy such as steel, cement, etc. Many of these industries can gradually switch to electricity from carbon-based fuel such as diesel, husk, coal, biomass, etc. Energy efficiency auditing has also been initiated in industries by CNI. We are helping industries so that they can use energy more efficiently. CNI will play a major role in explaining to industries the need to use cleaner energy sources. For this, there is also a scope of foreign direct investment in technologies. New technologies like waste heat recovery, advanced electrical furnace needs to be encouraged in Nepal. New technologies like waste heat recovery, advanced electrical furnace needs to be encouraged in Nepal. Big projects based on hydroelectric power will replace conventional means of energies. Long-haul electric buses. Investment in electrical trains. From Birganj to Kathmandu, all Nepalese imports are transported in diesel-based trucks. This project has high financial returns and also good for climate as we can significantly reduce the use of diesel. CNI has also supported one province, one mega hydro project undertaken by government. There are 7 provinces in Nepal and the government will provide great support to achieve them. Through this program, today I really wish that the UK-based energy infrastructure investment companies who are watching from Nepalese Embassy in London and Nepalese counterparts in Kathmandu will be successful in identifying projects that will help in encouraging the use of clean energy in Nepal and in South Asia. My best wishes to the participants of 26th UN Climate Change Conference of Parties COP26, which is going to be held in UK. I am sure it will bring a revolution in the energy field and also in the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Last but not the least, I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Krishna Prasad Acharya for his remark. Mr. Acharya is a hydropower developer and president of the Independent Power Producer Association of Nepal, an umbrella organization of hydropower developers.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the organizers of this event, UK-Nepal Energy Transition Roadmap to COP26. When our friends from Office of the Investment Board of Nepal informed me that the Nepalese Embassy London, British Embassy Kathmandu, and the other Office of the Investment Board of Nepal, together with the DMA, are jointly organizing this high-level conference and explained to me the subject matter of the conference, to bring business community of 2 countries on board and build up international collaboration in energy transition, the learner in me got excited and looked at it as an excellent opportunity to benefit from the company of very learned people of this field, as well as to learn more about the UK clean energy and energy transition companies who have shown an interest in Nepal. Such an event are essential and would indeed help in enhancing international collaboration between private sector of Nepal and UK in energy transition, as well as encourage bilateral cooperation and fight against climate change. Nepal has economically viable hydropower potential to generate above 43,000 megawatts of electricity and another 20,000 megawatts from solar, which can fulfill the requirements of power-hungry India and Bangladesh. Nepal's access to electricity is growing at a steady pace, and above 85% of total households now have grid electricity access. Though the Nepalese grid system is predominantly hydro, still above 72% of country's total energy requirement is made by traditional sources, and electricity only account about 3.5% only. With current established installed capacity of about 1,979 megawatt, the country so far has not been able to tap even 5% of its total generation potential, which does indicate that the opportunity for growth to hydro energy generation is immense. Furthermore, for the country to utilize the generated energy either for in-house consumption or selling it to the nearby market, it will require an improved transmission and distribution infrastructure in the country, which again calls for the further investment into the sector. For the past 27 years, the private sector has been playing a pivotal role in developing Nepal's energy sector. In the fiscal year 2020-21, with 3,241 gigawatt energy, that is 814 megawatt installed capacity, the private sector contribution to the national grid system was about 53.55% of total in-house generation, excluding import from India. The private sector has played a huge role in Nepal's phenomenal journey of being a power deficit country to soon to be energy self-reliant and energy exports country. With an investment of close to $15 billion, the private sector contribution is 60% of total in-house hydroelectricity generation in the country, which is expected to reach about 80% by 2025. Policy advocacy for energy projects. IPAN, being the umbrella organization of independent power producers in Nepal, has been actively advocating for private sector's investment-friendly acts, policies, regulation, and their prompt and effective implementations. It has been helping the government of Nepal in developing hydro energy sector through sharing of expertise and know-how to increase the pace of development. It also helped increasing an atmosphere of friendly cooperation between government Nepal and private sector. Moreover, IPAN takes proactive steps and measures to meaningfully engage with the line government agency to make sure that the private sector voices and concerns are appropriately heard and adequately addressed to in the government acts, policies, and regulations right during their formulations. Source of financing and FDI. The electricity rules 1993 AD paved the way for private sector's participation in the hydropower development in Nepal. Since then, many small and medium hydro plants in Nepal are developed by individual promoters, while the larger ones are developed by bilateral cooperation and financial support. In recent years, the local banking and financial institutions are helping the project's developers through debt financing. However, to realize a larger projects in megawatt scales or larger transmission line projects, the availability in house funds will not be enough, and Nepal would require FDI from international investment agencies or foreign private sector investors. Current share of FDI in the hydropower development in the country is very less. Potential areas of collaboration with the international investors. The government of Nepal innovation to develop 15,000 megawatt of hydroelectricity in 10 years, that is by 2028, and increase current per capita electricity consumption of about 260 kilowatt hour to 1500 kilowatt hour by the same period by completely revamping the existing energy consumption pattern as well as expanding the area of electricity consumption. In line with the government of Nepal vision, the private sector in Nepal has completed study of hydropower projects with a total installed capacity of 20,000 megawatt. Potential areas collaboration and investment are hydropower development, transmission and distribution infrastructure development, solar power development, development of road networks. Inevitably of developing the hydropower sector of Nepal is more pronounced because it could be mainstay for the Nepalese economy. It is the only sector that has got the potential, and if fully developed, can help Nepal address its challenge of severe backwardness in education, health, and previous poverty in the country. Furthermore, by utilizing Nepal's hydroelectricity, which is innately green, the South Asia region carbon emission can be reduced. Creation of environment conducive business and investment is essential for Nepal's energy sector and the economy to grow. Private sector has already proved that it can deliver sustainable growth, but an environment conducive and to business and investment needs to be created by the state. The government needs to encourage investment in energy sector, and the private sector must take leadership to role in drafting the national strategy for growth. The government has a critical role to play in creating a secure and business-friendly environment that will attract and sustain investment, including foreign investment. Having said this, I would like to take this opportunity to share with the UK investors and the international community that there are ample opportunity of investment in Nepal, renewable energy sector, and reiterate IPAN's commitment to stand by you and help you in whatever way possible. I strongly believe that it's very much doable, and together we can and we should help Nepal achieve the desired economic prosperity through hydropower development. I hereby invite the UK and international investors to come forward and invest in hydropower development of the country, and let's be a party to country's success story, or rather help the right one together. Finally, this was truly an honor for me to be here and speaking in front of very bright audience. I would like to thank once again to the organizers of this conference for enabling me this opportunity. Thank you.
Now, I would like to request the DMA Investment Limited to take the program forward. Over to you.
Thank you, Suvesha, for that masterfully chaired last session, and so content-rich as well. That's great. And once again, that reminder, all of these presentations will be available on our websites. And now we go on to a different part of the programme. We are delighted that the Chief Executive of Standard Chartered Bank, one of our principal sponsors, is going to give us a sense as to what the banking facilities are in Nepal and what the prospects are for renewable energy in Nepal. And over to you. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Dastidar, Chief Executive of Standard Chartered Bank in Nepal.
This is where we come alive. At Standard Chartered, we believe money can be a force for good. Which is why we've committed $75 billion to funding sustainable projects in parts of the world that need it most. Because progress doesn't have to cost our planet. Standard Chartered, here for good.
So we'll start with SCB's 3 pillars, which is around sustainable finance, responsible company, and inclusive communities. And this is in line with our valued behaviors and our promise for Here for Good. Embedding sustainability and leveraging our unique diversity in our practice is a major part of our purpose to drive commerce and prosperity across our business operations and communities. And this defines our purpose as a bank. And this also applies to our operations in Nepal. Now, a few recent announcements which kind of sets the context for sustainable finance. Decarbonization is a very key focus for Standard Chartered Bank. And on this front, just wanted to share 2 key commitments which the bank has announced. First, we are committed to reaching net zero carbon emissions from our operations by 2030. And we made significant progress. Second, we have committed to reaching net zero from our financing by 2050. The bank has already committed around $75 billion towards the UN SDGs by end 2024. We are expected to provide $40 billion of project financing services for sustainable infrastructure development and around $35 billion for renewables and clean tech projects. We will come back later on the opportunity on Nepal and why we feel as a bank Nepal can be an example for sustainable finance opportunities. A bit about Standard Chartered Bank's focus on sustainable finance. We as a bank globally made a series of commitments. I shared some of them, supporting the Paris Agreement on climate change and the transition to a cleaner, greener, fairer economy. We have a unique footprint as a bank across 59 of the world's most dynamic markets, which automatically means we are well placed, help get finance where it matters most, which is why we have a renewed target for financing and facilitating such finances. We work very closely with our clients and stakeholders, and we are focusing on areas of financing and investment that support sustainable development at the right pace and scale. Of course, the challenges of mobilizing SDG investment, particularly in emerging economies, are real. But barriers are coming down and new thinking is helping to channel capital into countries that previously found it very difficult to access private investment. Sustainable finance and investment has increased across the world. I mean, there are many examples with $10 trillion in 3 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is around clean water and sanitation, affordable clean energy, industry, innovation and infrastructure. So Standard Chartered Bank's focus on SDGs, some important points. As a bank, obviously, we are committed to using our banking knowledge, expertise on products and our unique footprint to fund sustainable development. And this is aimed towards where it matters the most. We want to be part of the solution in bridging the SDG funding gaps. In June 2019, just to give everyone an example, we launched our first sustainability bond, raising 500 million euros to fund projects aligned to the SDGs in emerging markets. In October 2019, our group chairman, Jose Vinals, joined the UN's Global Investors for Sustainable Development, this is called the GISD, to help push for more private sector investment. Now, these represent our best hope in tackling some of the most serious challenges which face our societies and the planet. The investment required to meet the targets by 2030 cannot be done by governments and NGOs alone. The private sector obviously has a very critical role to play. Investors, corporations, FIs, we are all committed towards achieving the SDGs. Capital does not seem to be flowing at the speed required to the countries where the investment is required the most. I mean, the UN just estimates around $3.9 trillion every year, which will be required to achieve all 17 goals by 2030. And at the current rate of investment, the UN has already calculated a gap of almost $2.5 trillion a year. How SDG requirements are related to Nepal? A few points. World Bank and the National Planning Commission in Nepal estimates spends of financing of almost 10 to 15% of GDP to achieve the SDGs and to graduate to a middle income country. The sheer share of the energy sector investment will be around 16 to 17% by 2026. Climate change and forestry comprise of about 2% of the total finance gap for Nepal. There are other sectors, agriculture 5%, water and sanitation 4%, transport, industry and ICT around 31% of the required investment gap. And now, what does this mean for investors, the business community? How would these help in aligning to global climate policies, embed resilience into infrastructure and supply chain in Nepal? So we are extremely passionate about showcasing Nepal as a case study for sustainable finance. Nepal is blessed with the mountains. Water is Nepal's biggest asset. And if we just look at the two pillars which the central bank regulator has outlined in terms of for banks, which is under specified sector, namely energy and agriculture. Both these pillars and both these sectors have huge potential for sustainable finance. And moving away from fossil fuels, there is a significant opportunity, and as an international bank, we really want to position Nepal on the map that this is a destination for sustainable finance. Now, at the same time, as an international bank, we need to help the country working with multilateral agencies, our peer banks and FIs to get the right kind of financing for Nepal as it expands these two sectors, whether it's blended finance, whether it's bonds, and all the other instruments which come under sustainable finance. Just to leave behind two examples, which we as a bank recently executed globally. So one was in Saudi Arabia. We closed a project for about 1.5 gigawatts. It was a solar power plant. This is a US dollar $906 billion project, which will power probably 180,000 homes. Standard Chartered was a key lender and a lead in financing this project. Another example, very powerful example we have from Angola. Standard Chartered Bank acted as the coordinator and structuring bank and worked in collaboration with institutions like World Bank and other international banks like Credit Suisse, BNP Paribas in a water supply project. Now, this project aims to provide clean drinking water to more than 2 million residents of South Luanda and Angola. So, I mean, in the same light, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities which we can bring to Nepal, whether it's sanitation, clean water, and other kind of requirements. So as the only international bank in Nepal, and we consider ourselves brand ambassadors for Nepal, given that we bring the international network into Nepal and Nepal into the international network, we stand committed for partnering with all our agencies in Nepal and internationally to help the country meet its SDG goals as well as bring out the best solutions available for sustainable finance.
And thank you so much, Mr. Dastia. That was a great presentation, and we're really grateful for your having contributed that. We're going to go on now to another private sector organisation that has helped us alongside Standard Chartered Bank in terms of putting this forum on, and that's the Dolma Impact Investment Fund. And you've heard a little bit about them today from Lord Sheikh, and we're going to hear now from its chief executive. And over to you, Tim. Thank you very much for having agreed to do this, and what a great presentation it is too. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tim Gosha. I'm the CEO of Dolma Impact Fund and Dolma Group. We have been investing in Nepal for around 7 years, and I'm really here to give you our experiences of the investment climate as it's progressed and as we move forward. We manage 2 private equity funds. They invest in renewable energy as one sector, also healthcare and technology. We're today, of course, talking about renewable energy, and we have 2 hydro plants which have been under construction for the last few years. We have just appointed investment banks to take them to the stock exchange, and we expect the listing to take place in Q1 next year of both of those. Last week, we commissioned the first hydro plant to sign a PPA with the NEA in Nepal, and that was with the Minister of Energy, and it was a great success. With our second fund, which closed this year, and our LPs there include CDC, IFC, part of the World Bank, FMO, and Swedfund. We'll continue to invest in renewable energy across hydro and solar power. I wanted to put in context the climate change situation in Nepal and the Himalayas, because, of course, this year, with the run-up to COP26, it's very important that the world understands the localized crisis which Nepal is facing. Of course, COP26 is focused on reducing global average temperatures quite rightly, but it also has another focus, and that's on short-term pollutants. Nepal and the Himalayan glaciers more generally are suffering from the black carbon emission, or soot, which is emitted from coal-fired power stations in bordering Indian states, also high-polluting vehicles, and cooking fires in households used for cooking heat and light, because there's not enough renewable energy in Nepal. That is causing terrifying levels of glacial melt. One statistic from a World Bank report in June on this issue suggests that up to 50% of Everest's glaciers will disappear between now and 2050. So it really is up to us to act, and it's in this context that we are trying to pioneer large-scale renewable energy investments. And the good thing, if there is a good thing about short-term pollutants, is that there is a short-term solution. If we can generate throughout the year and the different seasons in the year enough clean energy to power Nepal, not just with its current demand, but with electric vehicles, electric cooking stoves, etc., we can eliminate a lot of those black carbon particles in the air that settle on the glaciers. And so we really need a big push, as well as hydropower. We see solar power combined with batteries as a great solution for the dry season, which currently runs at a deficit and still requires imports from India, largely coal-fired power. And so we really want this conference to be about embracing this opportunity. It's a commercial opportunity. We are a private sector investor, but it's also an emergency in the context of COP26. To that end, we have a sister company, which is called Dolma Himalayan Energy, which is developing projects of around 200 megawatts of solar PV combined with battery power. And we think that batteries or any short-term storage solution is a game changer for Nepal. At the moment, solar power as a very intermittent power source is difficult for the Nepal grid to manage. But if you add batteries onto the grid, you're able to smooth that load during the day, and you're able to time shift the generation from the daytime into the peak hours. And specifically, solar power, of course, generates in the dry season when the run-of-river hydro plants, which make up the majority of generation, are not generating at their capacity, in fact, far below. So obviously, less cloudy, clear skies in the dry season generates more solar, which the batteries can then shift to exactly when the consumers and the grid needs that power. So we have a pipeline. We have had 2 licenses approved by the Investment Board of Nepal, which we will be taking forward. And we have a pipeline of around 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy. And of course, the beauty of solar power and battery is that they can be installed very quickly. Our solar plant commissioned last week was constructed in less than a year, compared to perhaps 4 years for our hydro plants. So we do think, and I think there is some work going on time of day tariffs, or some mechanism to incentivize the installation from the private sector of short-term battery storage. I'm often asked about the risks of investing in Nepal. It would be wrong to say that Nepal is not a risky country. However, the way we view it is that the institutions of Nepal have existed for decades. There is reform that could make them more efficient, sure, but you're not dealing with new unknowns. As long as you spend the time to get to know the institutions and their rules, and as long as you stick to those rules, we do find that all of our investments have been successfully deployed that we've proposed. And we do also find it a very friendly place to do business, I have to say. There are some specific risks which are worth pointing out. One is the lock-in period on the stock exchange. So I mentioned that our 2 hydro plants are heading for IPO, but we are then locked in for another 3 years under the current regulations. Now, there is a move to try to reduce that to 1 year for foreign investors. But at the moment, we have to take the risk of deploying our equity throughout the pre-construction and construction period, and then wait for another 3 years, which of course locks up that equity and exposes it to more risk. And so that is one risk unique to foreign investors. Another is credit risk. A point on that is that, at least for PPA projects signed with the NEA, Nepal has a 100% track record of paying its bills. In fact, Nepal as a government has a 100% track record, I believe, of meeting its external obligations. So while this credit risk is not wrapped into a sovereign bond traded and viewable on Bloomberg, actually, when you look deeper, we find the credit risk relatively low. There are mechanisms such as MIGA from the World Bank, which can wrap such risks as well. And then there's currency, and there are mechanisms in place to manage that currency risk, at least within a band. So look, it's been 7 years of investing. This year we start deploying a new fund. We're very bullish about Nepal, but there's this extra sense of urgency in the context of climate change. And I hope that this summit and this year can really expand the investments in Nepal renewable energy for the benefit of its people and the climate. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that, Tim, and we look forward to having you involved alongside Standard Chartered Bank in the discussions that follow this session, more details of which will follow shortly. Now we're getting on to our session on financing the energy transition and investing into net zero and achieving net zero rather, which is going to be made up primarily of IFIs, some multinationals, some bilateral IFIs, and we've got an incredible lineup. And in fact, I don't recall having seen a better lineup in one of these types of activities before. So we're really grateful for each and every one of the participants. And we'll start with the man of the hour, the COP26 ambassador, Ken O'Flaherty. Thank you so much for having done this. Ken, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation to speak at this timely and important event. I'm recording this message in Nepal, where I've been hearing about Nepal's impressive plans for climate action to tackle rising levels of climate shocks. I've also heard about the critical role that clean energy can play in Nepal's sustainable development to fuel domestic growth without increasing Nepal's emissions. The most recent analysis shows that modern clean energy supply is essential to replace burning fuel wood for cooking, decreasing the imports of oil and coal for transport and cement and brick manufacture, and supporting job creation in tourism, agriculture and manufacturing. It's also essential to reducing the emissions of its neighbours through the export of clean energy that can also generate revenues of up to $9 billion every year for Nepal. By developing its clean energy resources, Nepal can be an example to the world in showing how carbon emissions be avoided to limit devastating climate change while still maintaining Nepal's growth path to middle income status. During my visit, I heard from the private sector, from government and from development partners about the need for both private investment and private expertise to support the development of their abundant solar and hydro resources. Last week, development partners alone committed $4.2 billion to support green, resilient and inclusive development in Nepal to help deliver the 15,000 megawatts of clean energy supply that Nepal has committed to deliver by 2030. We know that development partner and government support won't be enough to achieve Nepal's ambition, and that's why today's event is so important. We need help from the UK to both raise investment finance and support the delivery of international standard clean energy investments. Two areas that we know the UK has particular expertise in. I know that barriers still remain, but having heard from the government, I can confirm that there is commitment to open up the energy sector for investment and develop the right policies to give both clarity and confidence for both investors and developers to commit to the projects that will make the energy transition in Nepal a reality. So as COP26 approaches, I'm really glad to see the very impressive response from the UK investors and businesses. With less than 35 days to go to COP26, we need you all to help Nepal make its energy transition a real one, building on the very strong partnership and ever-evolving partnership the UK already enjoys with Nepal.
Thank you so much, Ken, for that short, sharp, sweet, to the point presentation. Really well received and appreciated here. Next is over to one of your colleagues at the FCDO, Simon Lucas, and Simon is the Head of Climate Inclusion at the FCDO locally in Kathmandu. Simon, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Simon Lucas, and I'm the Climate Lead for the British Embassy in Kathmandu. And it's a real pleasure to talk to you today about a subject that is very close to my heart, but also of immense importance to Nepal's development and our joint work on climate change. I've been lucky enough to work in Nepal for over a decade, and over that time, I'm really glad to say that I've already seen the start of the energy transition that we're talking about. From very, very heavy reliance on biomass for most people, cooking on dirty fuel wood stoves, to increasing adoption of clean electric cooking, the start of electric vehicle penetration into the Nepal market, but most importantly, the start of the large investments in the hydropower, which many people refer to as Nepal's gold. Within a year or two, Nepal will be in an energy export position, allowing it to earn revenues by exporting its clean electricity to India and Bangladesh and offsetting their carbon emissions, as well as reducing emissions at home. And that's really the clean energy transition that we're talking about today. So I just want to talk to you about 4 areas that I think gives us even greater optimism for the energy markets in Nepal. The 4 I's, as I like to call them. Because we're not claiming that investment in Nepal is easy, but we know that there is a considerable resource, both on hydropower, solar power, biomass, waste to energy project programs, that the government is very keen to promote. But to do that, as I say, we need 4 I's. First is institutions. When I arrived in Nepal, what seems like a long time ago now, Nepal's power sector was in desperate states. High debts, very inefficient transmission, highly overstaffed, a raft of issues. But the Nepal Electricity Authority has been through a number of reforms and is now much more business orientated and much more capable as an institution. There's also an energy regulator in place that's helping to set the market conditions for investment. And the Ministry of Energy itself is looking at new strategies to meet Nepal's energy demand, ensure increased reliance on its own energy and not imported fossil fuels, and particularly to diversify into solar as well. And hopefully that will enable Nepal to capture the markets that are increasingly being developed in the region and can enable Nepal to earn up to $9 billion of electricity revenues a year. At the same time as reducing emissions in India and Bangladesh by up to 40 million tonnes per year. Importantly, the second I also needs to be in place. Along with institutions, we also need the right incentives, the right policies that provide investors the confidence that they can make a return, that their investments are in safe, and also the right policies to ensure that the power gets to the right people at the right price. So we're working with the government, with the Ministry of Energy, the Alternative Energy Promotion Centre, with the regulator and the Investment Board of Nepal to help get those right policies in place to give certainty for investors and developers. The third area is not surprisingly around investment. Nepal has made some pretty serious commitments on climate change, including developing 15,000 megawatts of capacity in the next 10 years. a really serious commitment to the clean energy transition, but we know that will require up to $20 billion worth of investment over that period. So we know the investment environment and getting the right projects and pipeline in place is going to be really critical. Now, the fourth I is around individuals. Here today, we have a number of people who've worked in Nepal and people who want to work in Nepal. And it's really up to us as individuals to make that change happen. And we can say that we're really keen to work with you, work with Nepali developers, Indian developers, Chinese developers, to get those investments in place, to make the energy transition happen. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the discussions and seeing how we can build partnerships and, in particular, showcase Nepal's energy transition capacity at COP26. And I hope to be able to give you more details on the COP26 event in the next week or two. But I encourage you to be as ambitious today as you can about making commitments, building partnerships, and we will see you at COP26, hopefully in Glasgow in a few weeks' time. Thank you.
Simon, thank you so much. There can't be a more important job in Nepal right now at the FCDO than what you're doing. I'm really grateful for all that you've done, and thank you for that great presentation too. Next, this is, in my view, one of the gold-plated British institutions. I think we're going to hear a lot about what HMG, we've heard rather a lot about what HMG is doing in Nepal. Here is the funding to back up what it's saying, and we're really delighted that UK Export Finance have sent Leisha Blackburn to talk to us about what their appetite is for Nepal and how you can access that. And once again, Ms. Blackburn's going to be with us during the interactive sessions that follow. Over to you, Ms. Blackburn. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for dialing in. My name is Leisha Blackburn, and I work for UK Export Finance as a Senior Business Origination Officer covering the South of Asia. So I don't have too much time, so I'll flick through this quite quickly, but just to give those of you who might not know much about us, we are a UK government department and the UK's export credit agency. We were established just after the First World War to promote British exports, and we do this through providing support rather than subsidies. So we exist to complement rather than compete with the private sector. Just to give you a little bit of background, so we have a reputation as being one of the world's most innovative and flexible export credit agencies. And we also have a reputation, increasingly so, as being quite a green export credit agency as well. We tend to be quite ahead of the curve. Obviously, you know, the context of this event, it's a renewable, it's an energy transition event. And over the past couple of years, we have been steadily moving more towards the renewables and clean growth space. To be honest, even before the UK government announced that it would be ending support for fossil fuel projects overseas, we were trying to move away from the traditional oil and gas projects that maybe we were once known for. Last year alone, you can see the figure here, we supported £2.4 billion in sustainable projects, and we were also ranked second in a list of ECAs for our support for sustainable projects as well. So I think about 50% of our pipeline now, at least 50% of our pipeline is composed of clean growth projects. So we really are, you know, making a name for ourselves as a green ECA. If I move on to our projects, so you know, what exactly is it that we can offer? So our product suite can essentially be categorized into two. The first being the first row that you can see on the screen here. This is our short-term support for UK exporters directly in fulfilling their projects. So we have a team of export finance managers. So depending on where a business is based in the UK, you will have a relationship manager, and we have, I think it's about, don't quote me on this, I think it's about 26 export finance managers at the moment, based all over the UK, and they will be your contact point for our short-term support. So this can cover if you need help in raising bonds, if you need insurance for your export contracts, or if you need working capital support, not only in for a specific contract, but if you need working capital support and you can prove that that support will go towards increasing your export potential, we can help you with that as well. So this isn't my area of expertise, and I don't have a lot of time. So rather than muddling through that, I really encourage you to reach out to your local export finance manager. The link on my slide here is live, so you can either click that or you can Google find an export finance manager on our website, and that will point you to your local contact. But the area of my expertise is where we can offer financing for your overseas buyers. So this is the second row on your screen here. And this is our long-term support for overseas buyers, in which we can provide attractive financing under the understanding that at least 20% of the amount that we're financing will be spent on UK goods and services. So if I click the screen over, so yeah, this is where we can provide attractive long-term financing for your buyers overseas to help make you make your offering more competitive. So it gives you the edge above your competitors, because you can offer cheaper financing on the basis of UKF support. So for Nepal, we have £1 to £2 billion worth of country risk appetite, so huge untapped potential there. We'd really love to do more in this market. We can support a number of sectors. The main exception there is we can no longer support fossil fuel overseas. But yeah, essentially how this support works is we can help you through either providing a bank guarantee, where we act as a credit enhancer for the loan. So the bank will be the ones issuing the loan to the overseas buyer. But then with the UKF guarantee applied there, they can price their loan more favourably on the basis of the UK government's sovereign guarantee. Or in limited circumstances, more likely so if there's a clean growth element to the project especially, we also have the capacity to lend directly ourselves, which means that the buyer can benefit from a fixed interest rate, which is set by the OECD. So if I move on to the next slide, just to pick out a couple of our main kind of value propositions. So our guarantee is 100% unconditional, which means that the banks love us because they don't have to worry about specific caveats. So we can guarantee 100% of up to 85% of the contract value, and that guarantee is unconditional. We can offer extended repayment tenors, so the buyer has can borrow over an extended period of time. They have a longer time to repay the loan. In some cases, so if it's a renewable energy project, for example, we can offer up to 18 years repayment, which is typically longer than is available on the private market. We can work with not any bank, but we can work with many different banks. Our kind of main consideration is that they are creditworthy, and we prefer if they have experience of working with an export credit agency. That helps. We can offer, we can support flexible transaction structures. So we can support sovereign lending, we can support corporate lending and project finance. We can look at all those things. We can also support a portion of local costs as well. So it's not just the UK content that we can support. Like I said before, the minimum is 20% UK content, and that covers goods, services, and intangibles. And it doesn't have to be, tier one content either. We recognise the value of the full supply chain. So as we can work with foreign contractors as long as there is UK content being procured somewhere in the supply chain. We also can help in identifying that UK content as well. So if a buyer is interested in using our support, but they're not quite there with the UK content, we can work with DIT and other kind of stakeholders or organise a supplier fair matchmaking event to bring the suppliers to the buyer. And finally, we do operate at no net cost to the taxpayer. So we do have to charge a premium for the risk that we take. And this is based on the tenor of the loan and the risk profile of the transaction as well. So yeah, I've kind of whizzed through that, but we're here to take Q&As. To take one-to-one meetings. So if you're interested in hearing more, I do really encourage you to please reach out to us. Like I said, we have a huge appetite, £1 to £2 billion worth of untapped appetite for Nepal. So if you're interested in maybe using our support for your next project, please do get in touch. But yeah, I'll leave it there because I think I've run out of time, but thank you very much.
Thank you once again. That was great, Leisha, and that just fed into already great content that we've had from HMG, from their supporting this programme to the beginning to hearing about this extraordinarily large appetite that UK Export Finance has for Nepal. Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear from some of the multilaterals and of course some of the great names in the multilateral development world are here with us today. And the first that we're going to hear from is from the IFC and the Regional Director for South Asia. Thank you, Hector, for having agreed to make this presentation. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to speak at this conference. From the hottest summers on record in many countries, to wildfires in North America and the unprecedented floods in Europe, it is clear that the impact of climate change is a present reality, not a distant possibility. It is now. And in this context, Nepal is, of course, not immune. The recent devastating floods and landslides in the Melanchi area is a reminder of Nepal's vulnerability to climate-induced disasters. The country's diverse geoclimatic system, which combines heavy monsoons, steep terrain, and remoteness, renders the country vulnerable to natural disasters. Of course, Nepal has shown the resilience of its people, its economy. It has the ability to recover from the impact of natural disasters. It is also a country with ambition that aims to achieve a net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, according to its 2020 national plan to meet its Paris Climate Agreement. It is an emissions reduction target that is rated as compatible with the 2 degrees Celsius scenario. And it is, as climate analytics describe, an ambitious climate target that has socioeconomic prosperity at its heart. Clean energy will help Nepal move away from fossil fuel imports and the use of polluting diesel to supply the reliable power needed, not only for homes, but also for industry. And it's why IFC, as the largest development organization working with the private sector in emerging markets, is committed to continuing to support Nepal and other governments in the region to bring in the private sector to help countries deliver on their commitments to the Paris Accord. IFC has, in fact, identified 46 billion worth of climate-smart investment opportunities in Nepal by 2030. These large investment opportunities highlight the role of the private sector in helping the country achieve sustainable development. One outstanding point of our study was that there is over $24 billion potential in renewable energy investment, along with millions in transport infrastructure to boost connectivity and upgrade urban transport. There is over $3 billion in green buildings and millions more in climate-smart urban wastewater. From our perspective, in terms of renewable energy, Nepal has the potential to not only meet its demands, but also to become a green energy powerhouse of the region, exporting clean power to countries like Bangladesh and India, and therefore helping the country's neighbors in their journey towards net zero. IFC is now working towards financial closing of one of the largest foreign direct investments in Nepal's history, the $650 million Upper Trishuli 1 hydropower project, known as UT1. UT1 will generate 216 megawatts of power, helping to reduce millions of dollars worth of fossil fuels imports while supplying electricity to millions of people. IFC led the financing of UT1 by arranging debt from 9 international lenders and providing both debt and equity to the project. The project also received blended finance from the International Development Association's private sector window and political risk insurance guarantees from the World Bank Group's MIGA. UT1 also sets high social and environmental benchmarks, including Nepal's first free prior informed consent process with the indigenous population. In addition to its investments, IFC's advisory program in Nepal is continuing to work with the government, with the Independent Power Producers Association of Nepal, to share technical knowledge, including on environmental, social, and governance standards. Also, our teams are supporting private developers to develop bankable projects such as the Butwal Power Company, Blue Energy, and Urja Developers. And we expect to continue to grow our investment in the renewable energy sector in Nepal. Nepal's energy transition is challenging and complex, but we are committed to support it. It is important that we combine forces, public and private, to help power Nepal to a sustainable, clean energy future. Thank you.
Mr. Gomez, it was our great pleasure to have you on the programme and for you to have delivered that excellent piece to camera for us. Thank you so much. And once again, the IFC are going to be available for your meeting request shortly. Thank you so much for that again. We're very grateful now to hear from USAID, who are long-term time supporters of Nepal, and I'm absolutely fascinated to hear what the content is going to be here. So without any further ado, over to USAID and over to Shankar. Thank you.
I appreciate this opportunity to participate in this event, which comes at a consequential time. With the 26th Conference of the Parties rapidly approaching, this is the perfect time to reflect on Nepal's laudable net zero ambitions and the financing needed for those ambitions to come to fruition. While every COP is consequential, this year's COP26 is a decisive moment for setting our world back on track for generations to come. Nepal is known for its abundant water resources and for the government of Nepal's commitment to develop its energy resources to grow the nation's economy cleanly and responsibly. Nepal is also fortunate to have abundant sunlight and so is currently planning the development of its photovoltaic assets. By developing these resources, Nepal can meet its domestic energy needs while also selling much-needed clean energy to its neighbors, displacing fossil fuels and generating revenue for development priorities. To fully seize its energy generation potential, significant investment is required, both domestic and foreign. While challenges remain, the investment climate in the energy sector has seen real improvements in recent years, and investments in the hydropower sector have increased as a result. In the very near future, Nepal will, for the first time in its in its history have excess power, at least in the wet season, and there is more on the way. How Nepal's generation surplus is managed will have a significant influence on Nepal's development trajectory and regional energy markets. It will also have a significant influence on Nepal's green, inclusive, and resilient development, including its transition to net zero economy. Nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, are the linchpin of the Paris Agreement and critical to global emission reductions that are urgently required. USAID Nepal commends Nepal's laudable net zero objectives, and we are supporting the implementation of Nepal's NDC in a variety of ways. One of our most significant partnerships in this regard is Urja Nepal. Urja Nepal is a demand-driven partnership that supports key national development priorities as defined by the Government of Nepal, including its NDC. Through Urja Nepal, USAID is investing to support improved utility performance and service delivery, promote advanced urban energy systems, including electric mobility, facilitate cross-border power trade, catalyze increased clean energy generation. Through Urja Nepal, we work closely with a number of our Government of Nepal counterparts, notably including the Investment Board of Nepal, the Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, the Electricity Regulatory Commission, and the Nepal Electricity Authority. We are also collaborating with the Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation to the development of an integrated resource and resiliency plan that enable decision makers to identify where future investments in generation, transmission, and distribution can be best targeted to meet forecasted power demand and ensure the resiliency of the energy system. Urja Nepal is also helping advance cross-border electricity trade between Nepal and its neighbors through development of the technical systems, regulatory regimes, and power agreements needed to enable cross-border power trade, and assisting in transparent agreements between cross-border buyers and sellers. Much remains to be done. While the investment environment is clearly improving, there are outstanding challenges to attracting investment at the required scale. One such challenge is to improve government procurement practices through international competitive bidding that creates a level playing field and builds investor confidence. Another is to continue to remove governmental roadblocks to achieve activities such as land acquisition for the construction of hydropower and solar projects and transmission lines. And Nepal's new regulator, the Electricity Regulatory Commission, must continue to develop, including gaining the appropriate permanent staff in order to effectively shoulder its new responsibilities related to sector restructuring, improving the tariff regime, and improving customer service. But perhaps the biggest challenge will be to implement modern and technically driven planning processes. Nepal can, in our view, most efficiently and sustainably attract financing for its net zero ambitions by merging water resource management and electricity sector planning, planning for the expansion of generation, transmission, and distribution networks, taking into account the changing face of energy, technology, and markets, matching demand and supply, both domestically and in foreign markets, and ensuring a resilient and diversified overall energy system, and a forward-looking, least regrets planning approach to system development. As you can see, there is a lot to do. USAID has supported Nepal's energy sector for more than 20 years. We look forward to continuing our strong partnership as Nepal pursues a net zero economy and the financing required to make this vision a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shankar. That was, once again, it's just been typical of the type of presentation we've been hearing so often today is really concise, to the point, and how fascinating. Thank you so much indeed. Now, off to our final speaker of this panel, but one of the most proactive organizations anywhere in the world for climate change, and having appointed very recently someone that leads their climate inclusion and climate change unit. We're absolutely delighted that Amal Lee has chosen to take part in this event, and I'm so excited to hear your presentation, Amal. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to join you at this UK-Nepal energy transition event and countdown to COP26 taking place in Glasgow starting at the beginning of November. So I'm delighted to be part of this conversation to discuss what is really now a critical issue for all countries in terms of how now to increase and attract investment that is going to be needed for the net zero transition and net zero development. Of course, at the same time, Nepal is a particularly vulnerable country when it comes to climate impacts. And we're already seeing, unfortunately, hearing worrying predictions of glacial retreat and glacial melting that may in the short term lead to flooding and potentially create all sorts of devastating impacts. And over the longer term may mean that there are water shortages, which of course could be a particular challenge for the energy sector and Nepal's reliance on hydropower at some point in the future. So of course the transition to net zero, it brings challenges, but also some opportunities. Certainly we see from CDC's perspective, we see a lot of potential opportunities to invest more in solar power, combined with battery storage, which can help provide electricity even when, even during the dry season when hydropower is less reliable or not available at all. And this meeting and this series of discussions with investors, with businesses that are looking to invest in Nepal's net zero economic transition, of course, then comes at a very, very timely point in time. So I'd like to just say a few words about how we at CDC are looking at the climate agenda. We have now set our own climate strategy where we are committed to be net zero emissions by 2050. And so that means as we look at each individual investment, we are assessing the extent to which that is consistent with that pathway to net zero emissions. We're also looking at our portfolio and the extent to which at the portfolio level, we are also on the right pathway to net zero emissions. We're also investing more in those types of businesses and solutions that are going to be needed to help manage climate impacts and adapt to and become more resilient to climate change over time. And of course, that is an area that Nepal, like other vulnerable countries, will increasingly need to be thinking and identifying where those business solutions are going to be needed. And I think very interestingly, given the vulnerability of the hydro sector to changing water patterns that will result from the changing glacial melt and retreat of the glaciers, actually, you could see that investing more in other types of renewable energy, such as solar, such as battery storage combined, actually could be part of the adaptation and resilience agenda for Nepal to ensure security of energy supply and a reduced reliance on necessarily importing power during those times where hydro is not available. So we're also very much interested in looking to partner with others who have an ambitious agenda on climate and are looking to bring those more innovative solutions to countries, to the market. And increasingly in the next 5-year strategy, climate change will be one of our top goals, climate and sustainability. And recognizing the need to focus more and more on those more innovative solutions that are going to be needed over time, whether that's in the energy sector, which of course is the main topic of this event, or other sectors, such as the water sector, looking at transport, electromobility, and all these other opportunities that are starting to emerge. So we at CDC are very much dedicated to partnering with others who are looking to innovate and bring these types of solutions. And I know you've got an excellent agenda, and I had opportunity to meet with one of our investees, with Tim Gotcha, the founder and CEO of Dolma Impact Fund, and we're delighted to be one of the LPs in that fund. Bringing both expertise and of course finance, and the opportunity to really attract and mobilize significant investor capital from the City of London to really support and invest in Nepal's transition to net zero over time. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish you a very successful event. Bye-bye.
Well, Amali, that did not disappoint. Thank you so much for that, and what a great way to end this session with CDC putting out their position there. Thank you so much, Amali. We're going to go now to our final speaker before we go on to this interactive session that we have alluded to during the course of today, and that final speaker is one of our sponsors alongside Standard Chartered Bank and alongside the Dolma Impact Investment Fund, and it's Kushal Projects, who have got a wide range of activity in Nepal, which they're looking to expand, and we're really pleased that they are involved in this program, have supported the event, and are looking to really consolidate their renewable presence in Nepal. And there are multiple speakers here, so I'll just say over to Kushal, and thank you so much for having supported. Thank you.
Nepal, our country, is not just about our mountains, hills and tarai. It's more to that, our people. The threat of climate change is looming large on our planet, and our country is very vulnerable to this threat. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, and I would like to introduce our Green Technocrat and Managing Director of KPNL, Mr. Sandeep Agrawal.
Hello, greetings from Kushal Projects Nepal Private Limited. I am Sandeep Agrawal, Managing Director of Kushal Group. Thank you very much to giving us this opportunity to present Kushal Projects on this forum. Our aim to help business and government on their net zero mission by providing engineering, procurement and construction services in various renewable energy projects from small, mid-sized to large solar power plants to EV charging stations, biomass and waste management to generate clean and green sustainable energy. We aim to contribute to Nepal's COP26 roadmap by providing innovative technologies and by providing green jobs to the local population and a clean environment to the community. Let's work together to fulfill Nepal net zero mission by reducing carbon footprint and to spread fragrance of green energy and a clean environment in Nepal for sustainable living to our generations. Thank you very much. Over to you, Purnima.
As Kushal Projects Nepal Private Limited representative, we are delighted to be on Nepal's countdown to COP26 initiatives and would like to thank the Embassy of Nepal, London, the British Embassy Kathmandu, Office of Investment Board of Nepal, Department of Trade UK, and everyone involved. As a business, we, Kushal Projects Nepal Private Limited, is doing our bits in net zero mission in the field of EPC, that is engineering, procurement and construction, on alternative energy and beyond. Here is our story. Kushal Projects Nepal Private Limited is an ISO 9001-2015 certified Nepalese company involved in large-scale solar projects development as an EPC partners for various government and privately held solar power projects all across Nepal. Project synopsis: 10 MW Mithila Solar Power Project Phase 1, 10 MW Mithila Solar Power Project Phase 2, 4 MW Chandranigapur Solar Power Project, 8 MW Parwanipur Solar Power Project, 1 MW Dhalkebar Solar Power Project, 1 MW Simara Solar Power Project. We are the authorized channel partner in Nepal for FEMER and authorized dealer of Kirloskar and TMC transformers. Our verticals: renewable energy and power transmission, irrigation and water supply solutions, construction and consultancy, trading of electromechanical equipments. Our professional management and executive team: Mr. Prashant Tatter, Mr. Sandeep Agrawal, Mr. Kushal Agrawal, Engineer KC Narula, Engineer Ajay Atriya, Engineer DP Kaura, Engineer Sanjila Neopani, Ms. Shreya Agrawal. Our core competencies are pre-PPA services and solar EPC services. Pre-PPA services offer company formation, land lease agreement, site allocation, detailed project report, survey license, desk study, environmental assessment study, electricity generation license, bank LOI, PPA application. EPC services offers detailed engineering, procurement and logistics, construction, DC-AC installation and integration, testing and commissioning, operation and maintenance. I hope you all have enjoyed the video, and to add on to our net zero targets, we are proposing more.
Hello to everyone, I am Filippo Carzaniga, Chairman of the Board of FEMER. As you know, we have executed several solar projects in Nepal with our partner Kushal Project successfully. We are extremely happy to support Nepal COP26 agenda, and we are aggressively working to support our channel partner Kushal Project in creating a new era of charging station infrastructure and solar projects to develop a green energy in Nepal.
To reduce our dependence on the import of petroleum products, we have to prioritize globally enhanced popularity of electric vehicles. For this, Government of Nepal has framed various strategies concerning the implementation of charging stations across different parts of the nation. Additionally, they have made various arrangements with respect to the production of alternative energy and their utilizations. Thus, recently, by merging these two ideas, we can foster a hybrid economical model dependent on solar power plant into a charging station. Presently, as there were less electric vehicles on the lookout, pay created from a performance charging station can be economical to withstand, so we can develop a 1 megawatt mini solar grid under net metering policy, which helps in producing additional income. To outline this model, we can utilize a supercharging station and microgrid of renowned Italian brand Femur, of which Kushal Projects is a sole distributor for Nepal. Femur have 60 to 150 kilowatt of DC station, up to 44 kilowatt of AC station, and wall box for the private applications. It additionally has compact battery backup solution, which can supply power backups for various display boards and other utilities during nights. This will not be a solitary supercharging station. It will be a blend of various shops and stalls which can turn into a decent source of income. Primary source of revenue will be from individuals charging their vehicles. Secondary source is the income generated from the net metering policy when the overabundance power from the 1 megawatt solar plant will be sent to the grid. Tertiary source will be the different advertisement displays around the carport. Finally, significant distance traveling vehicles like transportation trucks and passenger buses also come to charge their vehicles, so with the help of various food stalls, retail outlets and recreational centers, we create extra revenue. With the aim to conserve and promote the environment, worldwide individuals are choosing electric vehicles over petroleum vehicles. So only with the excessive use of electric vehicles, we can remove Nepal from the reliance of petroleum products.
We would like to welcome all the businesses, the corporate houses, government agencies to reach out to KPNL representative, and let's join our hands together on roadmap of Nepal's commitment to COP26 and beyond for future generation, for green jobs and green investment. Thank you.
And thank you, Kushal, and thank you, of course, to you, Sandeep. Thanks for a really great, polished, a lovely way to round off this event. Someone that's committed to Nepal, someone that's committed to reinvesting into Nepal. That was great to hear. Now, as we have alluded to on several occasions, at the end of this session, which is just about to wind up now, we'll take a few minutes break, and then you will have the accesses that we have spoken about earlier to the Zoom meeting that will follow. This is to introduce British companies and Nepalese companies to one another, and then the process of the one-on-one meetings begins. So once again, you'll see on your right-hand side, on your left-hand side rather, you'll see the Zoom link. If you've not already had access to that, we look forward to seeing you again in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. What a great morning, stroke afternoon, and we're really looking forward to some productive dialogue going forward. Thank you.